All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm Bill Sheets. I'm the Swanton Village Manager. Thank you for attending the very first of what we think will be at least 10, but up to 35 open houses to talk about our public safety project and the complex renovations. So we're going to run through. When everybody up here presents, they'll take the opportunity to introduce themselves. I want to very briefly, I've been reminded I need to be brief. Here's kind of the overview of what we're going to do. I'm going to give an outline. Everybody here is going to kind of walk through their separate sections. We're going to play a video early on about our efforts, and then we're going to do a tour. And in between that, we'll answer any questions. So questions. If you have a burning question that you feel can't wait, just raise your hand and we'll ask. Online, if you have a burning question, if you just raise your hand online, we can do that. We ask if you're online that everybody mute until you have a question. There will be presentations by the 5 department heads who live in this complex right now who are most impacted. They, when they're done, their particular presentation, they can answer questions about their shop. And then at the end, let it fly. Any questions? So how we got here? We got here because there's a belief that the village of Swanton is tiny, that we don't have that many employees. We're bursting at the seams. We're about to have 42 full-time employees with a budget of just under $13 million, with a bunch of enterprise funds to include several that live here. I'll let them talk about specifics, but this is not about simply improving one section or another, and they'll talk about that. This is about the needs, and we think the best solution supported by the trustees to bring to the voters to solve our space issues and meet the needs of the community for the next 50 years. We get it's a very large ask. We'll articulate what we think is a critical need. At the end of the day, here's why I appreciate this process. Ask all the questions. We hope everybody is polite and professional. We'll give tours at any time leading up to the bond vote, and then it's the will of the voters, and we'll respect that. It's really that simple. The trustees have repeatedly stated that it's critically important to hear from all of you during this process, but most importantly in March on town meeting day. So that's what we intend to do. We'll give it an overview here. We'll talk about the project and what's going to happen, but the misnomer that it's just about the fire department, it's just about the police department or one or the other. It's because we're out of room in its entirety. So we'll talk about that as we go along. I'm going to turn it over to our esteemed village president.
Esteemed.
You like that?
I'm going to stand up because I'm pretty short to speak from the table. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Neil Spear, the village president. I've been for a couple of years and been living here most of my life. And I just want to brief you. First of all, like Bill says, I thank you all for coming. Hopefully we'll have multiple people coming in at our different showings. But the trustees and I and the village man, the whole team here that you see, and even more, we have about 40 employees now in the village. And we think we have a pretty good team set together. And we're really proud of all their work. And I'm not just saying that, we have compliments from the people we serve. And we've had some issues with, like Bill says, and I apologize if I'm repeating some of what he said, but we have some concerns with safety because of lack of space, safety for our teams, and we don't want to jeopardize the quality of the services to the community, so we need more space. And I think the majority of the people will agree with that after they see our presentation and our tour. The size of the project is pretty ambitious, but there has to be some kind of a change here, and we have, because we didn't know the requirements. We hired a professional architect to make the proposal that you see in the back. You can take a look at that after, for the new public safety building and renovations to this building. This building is 50 some odd years old. You've had that before, heard that before, and it's mechanically and physically it needs to be reworked. But, so in light of our teams needing more space, after we hired the architect, we hired REARC, these representatives from that company here tonight to answer any of your questions and make a presentation of our new proposal. We hired these people because they know what the requirements are, what the state, federal requirements are for public safety, and rather than taking hits from here and there. We believe we have a professional presentation, and if you have any questions, like Bill says, raise your hand and we'll do the best that we can to answer them. Let me see. Yeah, we know that, we realize, we live here too, that this is a pretty ambitious proposal for the building and the renovations, but we believe, I say the team, and I don't mean just me, I mean the trustees, the managers, the supervisors, and the administration believe that in the long run, this will pay off. And the hard part is now that the initial cost is almost prohibitive, but we believe that it's an investment. I've said this before as the other, it's an investment that will prove that it's the right investment as we go on. So, in an attempt to convince everybody that we're on the right path, like Bill says, we're having a bunch of open houses, 10 to begin with, and then another 20 or so. So, and if at any time you can't make one of the open houses, just give a call to the office and we'll have somebody here. And one of the things that I was supposed to say at the beginning of the meeting, this isn't a stated meeting. We haven't warned it, so this is an informational meeting, informal. So if you have any questions, like I said, just raise your hand and we'll see if we can answer them. But, and we have one trustee here tonight, and I don't know if he wants to say something. He said he might have to. Eugene LeBombard, he took a break in between, but he's been a trustee for early on before I came on board, and then we talked him into coming back again. But anyways, would you like to say something, Gene?
Yeah, thank you. In addition to what they have said, I think something came up that I think everybody should be aware of. Obviously, we need space. We need room for expansion here and there. And I was very disappointed about 4 or 5 years ago when the Carroll Concrete property went for sale. We weren't in a position to purchase it, and we lost it. And I said, wow, what a perfect place. Well, as things turned out, the purchaser wasn't able to do what they wanted to do, and they offered it to us. And this time, we were in a position a year ago to buy it with the American Research Protection Plan and all that sort of thing, the ARPA funds, so they say, and we did it. And we have a place. So for whatever we do, we have done something very positive. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you both. So for those, this is essentially for those that are online and can't be here for the tour. We're going to show the full 6-minute, 45-second video. It'll really serve to highlight what we're trying to accomplish before we get into the nitty-gritty with the department leaders. So if we can hit it, we'll play this.
Swanton and the village are a great place to live. The community is awesome. The schools are amazing. We have big city services in a small town. But it's time to invest in our future and support our thriving community.
Hi, I'm Bill Sheets. I'm the Swanton Village Manager. I love it here. I'm protective of this community. I grew up here. I went to Missisquoi Valley Union High School right up the road. My job is my role. I work for the trustees. I work for the community. This building, Swanton Municipal Complex, 121st Street, was built nearly 50 years ago.
I know the outside of the building looks great, and I never realized in the inside of the building how it was falling apart, how old the inside of the building is. You can see that it's 50 years old.
The police department would not meet any accreditation standards at all, not one of them.
So there's a host of issues. It's an extremely small facility. We are completely out of space. For example, temp evidence and all of our storage for equipment is a closet. We have a longer term holding area for evidence that is also completely inadequate. It is maxed out. In order to properly store evidence, guns and drugs should be separated from general evidence and found property, and we don't have any ability to do that currently.
I was completely shocked by how small of a space they have. And when they do have somebody in custody, there's really no place to contain them. There's just a little ring on the wall that they handcuffed them to. That really surprised me.
There are safety concerns. So if you go to a properly designed, purpose-built police department, you would come into a secure lobby area. There would be bulletproof glass. You wouldn't be able to access anywhere, and you'd be contained in that space. Here, we don't have anything like that. It's basically just a municipal facility that's been retrofitted to squeeze police into a very small area of the facility.
The fire department needs room to grow and expand over the next 50 years based on whatever the community throws at us. Decontamination procedures right now are unsafe, they're non-existent.
So when this building was built in the 1980s, the mission was to go out, do the job, and come home. So what the products are made of today burns differently and burns with more impurities and more carcinogens, more chemical agents than they ever have before. All that stuff gets on us. We are substantially exposed to high volumes of harmful chemicals.
There's no place for them to decontaminate, which is huge. They don't want to bring those chemicals that are cancer causing to their family.
We don't have those facilities at this time, and we don't have the means to expand the footprint to add those.
The electric department has expanded. Our increase in capacity to meet the need have caused us to buy additional equipment. A lot of the poles have gotten taller, our equipment has gotten bigger, we take up more space. Issues that we're having in the current building, not being able to house all the equipment that we need to house. It can impact our rates because we have to purchase something more regular than we need to because it's out and it's being exposed. It breaks down, it doesn't last as long. So this is wasteful.
Hi, I'm Dean, I'm the Public Works Supervisor for Swanton Village Public Works. So when you're coming through here, you really gotta put your back against the door and you really gotta tuck it in. Because you'll hit switches, we broke a couple switches before and they're not cheap. This switch right here got caught in the jacket when we were coming through, and that switch is almost $500, it's a safety switch. So these stripes are painted on the floor, and I have a stripe on the wall. When this vehicle drives in, these tires have to be on this or a couple inches that way. In order for me to go through here to get to that, I have to crawl through the funnel of the plow, any one of us. So we gotta bend down, and we gotta squeeze it, and we gotta hook it in. Actually, last week, we just went out, and I was just coming in, and I was getting out, and I wrapped myself in the head, and actually I got a black and blue on my head. It's really tight.
And it's full of equipment. And I see also the storage space. They're full. They're full. The public has to be aware, if nothing is done at this time, the services might be decreased.
We're growing, and our infrastructure is not growing with the community.
And now we have a unique opportunity to create a new public safety facility and remodel the existing facility. There's two phases to the project. The first stage is the creation of a new public safety facility next door at 124 First Street. That will entail moving our police department and fire department into a building that will meet the needs of our citizens for the next 50 years.
We're very excited at the possibility of having a purpose-built police facility. I feel like it meets the needs for the community for the next 50 years.
The overall benefits to the new building is really going to set the foundation to have a healthier quality of experience for the passionate individuals that serve their community as firefighters, but also expand to future needs to wherever the community may ask us to go. Once the police department and fire department facility is complete, that's when we will move those entities over to the new building and begin construction on what is phase 2, which is the renovation of the existing facility. We want to expand a little bit on the front end. We want to put a covered walkway. We want to put better lighting and better accessibility. We're cognizant of the fact that the impact for the voters fiscally is every year that we delay this project, it's going to increase by $750,000 to $1 million. The impact for the village voters on the bond, your rates are going to go up. What we hope is going to happen is we're going to expand police services to the town and other nearby communities, and you're going to see that tax burden level down or be neutral. We expand further, your tax burden is going to decrease over time. We're well aware that we're asking a lot of you, and that if you want to create a vibrant community, it must start with public safety. Yes, you need mental health services, education, buildings, businesses. You need all of that. I don't know how you have any of it if you don't have public safety.
I really hope that other community members support this bond, that they want to continue these services for our children and the future generations to come.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully, again, you're going to get the tour. You're here, we get that, but we created the video because not everybody's able to make it in. I'm going to turn it over to Weeman Lampier, our architectural firm of choice, and then we're going to hear from Rearch. So we did a comprehensive process internally for a review to identify the best of the best, and the selection process included a number of people, and that's who you're going to hear from today. So Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, and thank you for coming, everybody. My name is Steve Roy. I'm from Weeman Lampier Architects. On the screen here today, we've got the two main architects that have worked on the project, as well as Chris and Bert from Rearch Company. Really, we were brought into this project to take care of a couple of tasks. And one is to really evaluate options for the community that will help them deliver services to the village for the next 50 years. Beyond that, we were tasked with looking at various options to see what makes the most sense for this community in terms of meeting the needs of each department, how we can do it as cost effectively as we can. We do know that prices are very high. We also know that prices don't go down. So every year that is going by is a number that's going to get higher and higher. So there's always that concern. So I'm going to walk you through the project at a very sort of high level, and feel free to ask questions. I know it's going to be a lot. Some of it is represented on the backboards, and we can look at those and answer questions afterwards as well. So what we have is a two-phase project, as Bill had alluded to. This phase 1 is the property across the street, across Elm Street. The purple lines are defining Elm Street, and phase 2 is the building that we're in right now. What this shows is a 3D rendering of the building that we've positioned onto the site. It is a very long and narrow site, but it actually works reasonably well for public safety services. So we've taken advantage of this long linear option to provide a fire station and a police station on that location. This is the site plan of how we've fit the public safety facility on. Robin Hood Drive is at the top of the screen. Elm Street is at the bottom of the screen. Really, what we're trying to focus on here is that we've got a secured police department, Sally Port area and parking space. So they have their own secure area back here. The police station takes up the southern half of the building, and the fire department takes up the northern half. So they also have their own parking access. It allows fire department personnel to come in, drive in, have quick access to their equipment. Another advantage that we've used with the narrow lot is to have apparatus bays that can drive through. So we have access from Elm Street and then onto Robin Hood Drive. This is the floor plan that you can see back there as well. Overall, it's approaching 23,000 square feet in total. Close to half of that is fire department space, about 6,240 square feet for the police department, and another 4,450 square feet of shared space between the two departments, as well as community public space. I'll go through a couple of the highlights for each of the spaces, again at just a high level. One of the key aspects of the design is drive-through apparatus bays. So there are spaces for single vehicles where they're longer trucks, but we're trying to get access one direction, minimizes the amount of backing up for personnel to do, especially if they're in a rush and headed out the door. We just want to have a flow that is predictable and easy. Thanks. That fire station would have engine exhaust removal system. So right now, any of the vehicles that are turned on inside, there's those exhaust particles are just floating within the air. So this allows removal of those particles, makes it safer for anybody in the space. Also, we are looking at having an enclosed turnout gear room. This will allow the gear to be exhausted. Again, they'll come home from an event, they'll have decontamination space. Actually, that's the next slide as well. But they'll have decontamination space where they can take showers, they can remove their gear, they can put the gear through the laundry, they can then put it into their locker turnout room where it's ready to go for the next event. It's no longer an issue. They're not bringing the pollutants home with them. They've cleaned up before they can leave. Looking at the police station, this has two vehicle garage spaces for vehicle processing in Sallyport, and proper holding facilities for the department as planned over the years. And there is evidence processing and storage space. Again, looking at what they have today, you'll see it is highly inadequate to meet the needs of the community of any size. And it's kind of amazing that they've been able to do it so far. But this brings it to a proper level where they can store evidence properly, have it all tagged and handled properly. This plan also allows for a reasonable amount of meeting space and office space, something that they sorely lack today. And with any, it allows a little bit of expansion into the future for additional officers as the police department is able to expand. We've just shown a few elevations. Again, it gives you a sense that it's a very long building and a very narrow building. Everything is one story. Just based on the use, it doesn't make any sense to be a two-story facility with this type of lot, and it's the most cost-effective way to build. We've added a few renderings on the exterior just to give a flavor of what the building could look like. REARC has used all of our drawings to represent cost estimates for the overall project to get a sense of what it would cost. This is a view looking down Elm Street. So one story but taller garage bays for the fire department apparatus. And then as you get further in was the police department. So that was a quick walkthrough of phase one. The next portion of the project would be phase two. So Once this building is done, folks would move into that space. It would free up a little bit of space within the existing building so that it could be renovated. And this was part of the video, but this graphic just shows that there's a 1,500 square foot addition onto this building. So the profile, the triangle profile you see here is what we have today. This portion here is what is the addition. So it's not just a walkway to get to the front door, but it's also some office space so that we don't have offices in the corner of a meeting room currently. So to walk through the municipal complex renovation, we've done multiple iterations that showed a full renovation of this entire building. And having received cost estimates for that work, said, hold on, what can we do to reduce the overall cost? It's problematic. So we looked at how we could shift things around. Right now, the Department of Public Works and the Electric Department are working out of this space here. That amount of space will be adequate to host the Electric Department in the future, but we're really not doing any work to improve the space. We're not doing any major improvements to that area, just to keep the budget reasonable. But it allows, one of the most important things is to be able to fit the equipment, operate safely, and give a little bit of room for things that are stored outside currently. Right now, the rescue bay at the end and the fire department take up this space. Again, very limited work is going to actually happen in that space. The key to this project is this space, by having the fire department move out of it, is now freed up to move the Department of Public Works. So all of the equipment from the Department of Public Works is shown on this plan, and you can take a closer look out back if you'd like. So it's providing additional space to operate, but really trying to minimize the cost and only make the changes necessary to make the move. And the last part of the project is the village administration portion and a little bit of shared space. It is a gut renovation, so a lot of the office walls would come down. If you are to take a look at the attic area, the mechanical systems are all old, need to be replaced. It's basically open to the attic above, so there's very little energy efficiency related to it as well. So this is looking to take care of this portion of the building for a long-term change. This is a closer view. It shows the community room that we're in. There would be an additional conference space just outside of that. We'd have some, the bathrooms would be removed and replaced with handicap accessible bathrooms. And this tan color up top is office space and the space needed by the administrative department to serve the town, the village. The last part of the project, I don't know how much familiarity there is with stormwater in Vermont, but there are some new rules, and communities need to, if you have a property over 3 acres, to deal with your stormwater. This is a kind of a 3-part slide where the new property has 2 individual stormwater treatment areas. The addition that would happen on phase 2 has its own stormwater treatment for that section. And while we're doing the projects, we're going to include a new swale and a stormwater treatment area that would take care of the 3-acre rules by the state. I'm going to pass it along now to Bert Delabriere from REARC. Thanks, Steve.
So anyways, I'm Bert Delabriere. I'm a president and chief estimator for REARC. I've been there 19 years, and I've got 41 years of experience in both estimating and purchasing. So to talk about the project, we actually took what Steve just presented and plus a little bit more detail, and we went through and did a detailed estimate. We counted doors, we took off partitions, we actually just finished pricing a fire station. So we had trade partners there, so we got real-time unit prices for mechanical system. So the mechanical system, which wasn't talked about, is included as a geothermal system. So there, we've got tax credits coming back to the village. So we got real-time data, and we went through and applied the costs for this. So the public facility, the construction cost is 12.5 million. That's the 23,000 square foot. And that includes all the site work associated with that. And then when you have the owner's costs, which is like architectural and engineering, you got permit costs. We also have an escalation of 5% because we price it in today's dollars, thinking that it's a year out before we start construction, so that's included. So that's your 14.8 million. The municipal complex building, that we had to bring that down because we were over. We were roughly 24 million and some change for a complete renovation of this building, so we tailored that back quite a bit and looked at what can we do to bring this under $20 million. So that's a renovation of the existing building. It's 27,000 square feet in that building, but we're looking at mostly doing the front end, the small addition, and leaving some of the open bays back there and doing minimum work. And then we have owner's costs, contingency. So on this project, owner's carrying a 10% contingency. On the new construction, the owner's carrying a 5%. So total with both projects, again, that's phase one, and once we're done that, phase two, so there's your 19.9 million. I have a lot of information I can, after the meeting, if you have questions, come see me for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna turn it over to the 5 department heads, and these are the leaders of the folks that work in this building every single day, and they have a wealth of experience, so it's best for you to hear from their point of view directly. Chief Matt Sullivan, you're up first.
Okay, just to give you a brief overview of the police department, we have 8 fully, we're fully staffed with 8 full-time officers. We supplement that with 6 part-time officers who fill shifts. We have 2 open shifts every week that we struggle, quite frankly, to fill with part-time officers. Even though in theory it should be easy because it's scheduled for, if a person is working Monday through Friday, normally they should have days off on the weekend, but still we struggle to fill those shifts. And so we are at the same time minimally staffed. So if we have somebody call out for a shift, if they're sick or something like that, we have to struggle to fill that shift, which is also a problem. A perfect example of that is me. I'm sick. I have been sick. Last week, I was the only officer working during the daytime. I had no choice. I had to be here when I probably would have taken time off to try to deal with this sickness. And I'm still sick and working, again, my second week fully sick because we have no cushion. When I was working in Burlington, we had this thing called the availability factor, which is roughly with time off, vacation, sick time, and then military leave for officers. Officers are available about 86.5% of the time that they're actually scheduled to work. We do not have that built into the schedule here. So again, we are minimally staffed. The positions that we have as far as our full-time officers are the chief of police, myself. I also serve as a patrolman. I've handled more incidents than a couple of the other officers on shift, in addition to all my administrative abilities, which I find very challenging. It is not easy to try to run a police department of this size with no support staff at all. I have one administrative person who works 6 hours a week, and that is it. I have 2 sergeants who are also patrolmen. I have an administrative officer who is a patrolman. And there's another perfect example of where we really have no cushion in staffing. He suffered an off-duty injury, and he's going to be out for months and not be able to wear a uniform and respond to calls for service. There are 3 other patrol officers who also respond to calls for service, and we have 1 school resource officer who is paid for by the school district and is assigned specifically to the high school and deals with all the issues at the high school. And so again, there is no buffer to assist in filling shifts. As far as the facility goes, Village Manager Sheets recognized this from his years of experience in policing. And certainly he experienced it with Vermont State Police with the different barracks. I mean, if you remember the old St. Albans barracks, it was terribly inadequate until they built a new facility. It is very difficult to operate a police department out of a facility that is not designed for policing. After 2 decades of working at the Burlington Police Department, again, a building that was retrofitted much larger than what we have here, obviously a much larger agency, the largest municipality in the city of Vermont, I can tell you it was not a very functional police department because it was a retrofitted building, and still is to this day. But as far as this department goes, we have about 600 square feet of space, which I hope you folks take the time to take a look at what it actually looks like. We have somebody in custody immediately, so unfortunately you most likely will not be able to get to see the one processing room that we have because somebody is chained to the wall currently. And essentially that shuts down the police department, right? If we have somebody in custody normally, we would shut the door and the public does not have ready access to the police department because we want to give people privacy and respect their dignity when they are in custody. So again, roughly 600 square feet, we are out of space. We have inadequate storage for equipment. We have inadequate storage for evidence. We've switched over, the whole state is on a new CAD RMS system. And I can tell you since we switched over the beginning of 2022, we have accumulated just shy of 600 items of evidence. And so that, if you can imagine that, and we're executing, we're doing more investigative work, addressing the drug problem in the community, we are collecting a lot of evidence with every search warrant that we do. So far this year, we have punched 51 search warrant incidents. That's not necessarily indicative of how many cases or investigations, because sometimes there are multiple search warrants associated with one investigation. But that number is by far more than the police department has ever done. Normally we do a handful, less than 10 a year. I can tell you in 2022, as we were ramping up, we executed 7 search warrants. And then in 2021, 3, 2020, 9, 2019, 6, 2018, 2, 2017, 1. So that gives you an idea of the investigative work that the police department is doing now. But the evidence storage is completely inadequate. Firearm storage is inadequate. There are no holding cells. Again, and if we have juveniles in custody, which we have had in custody, associated mainly with incidents that occur up at MVU, they're supposed to be separated, sight and sound separation from anybody else. We really don't have that. It's completely inadequate to provide that sort of privacy for juveniles. We have an inadequate interview room. Our interview room is the holding facility, is the processing room. So right now that's occupied by the person we have in custody. We have no locker rooms. The Sally Port is open to the general facility. So we also seized the vehicle associated with this person we have in custody currently. That vehicle is in the Sally Port area that we have assigned currently, but it's open to the general flow of the facility. So we have had issues in the past prior to my time where evidence has been tampered with by employees accidentally, but traversing that area creates problems for us when we have to have these cases litigated in court. And then just generally speaking, it was addressed in the video, the facility is not secure, right? Anybody can come in, and again, when we have people in custody like we do now, normally we would shut the door and the public doesn't have access. Generally, the public does have access. They can just walk right in, right? And they have basically full access to both the officer room, to the processing room, to where the administrative officer sits, and the chief of police office, which is unheard of in any police department that I've been to over the course of my more than 2 decades doing this job. We have, other issues that we have, for example, we have no servers for our computers. All of our computers are standalone, so it's very difficult for officers to share information. They have to try to preserve and back up their own data on their computer. If those computers crash, they lose everything if that data is not backed up. That is problematic. There again, if we do have a server has to have its own room, and because of Criminal Justice Information Systems requirements set by the FBI and the Vermont Criminal Information Center, who monitors how police departments are set up, the general public can't see monitors, they can't have access to server rooms. Normally officers can't have access to server rooms. When I was working in Burlington, it was only the head of IT and myself that had access to the server room at the Burlington Police Department, and nobody else had access to that. So there are requirements as far as that goes, and we don't have that now. Generally speaking, again, law enforcement requires a purpose-built facility. It is amazing that a small community like this has had a police department for a substantial period of time, since the 1800s. And just for an example, what you get in rural communities if you don't have a police department is Vermont State Police is your backstop. So for example, today, there were 3 troopers assigned to the St. Albans Barracks. All right, you had, in addition to those 3 troopers, you had a patrol commander and the lieutenant working the day shift, but they're covering a huge area. If Grand Isle sheriffs aren't on in the islands, right, they work from the early morning until about midnight, and then they're off duty. So overnight, VSP has a responsibility to cover the islands. And then if you think about the southern border of where VSP covers, it's Georgia, Fairfax, Fletcher, Bakersfield, Montgomery, and then Richford up to the border, and then all the communities in between. So their response time, they are spread extremely thin, and their response time sometimes can be 45 minutes if they respond at all, or they're handling calls over the phone. So that's what communities get when they don't have a dedicated police department to that community.
Thank you, Chief. Before we open it, so I think at this point, if there's questions specific to each section, feel free to ask, but can I ask a question first? Can you make sure your officers put the evidence tape on those doors before we go out for a tour for scene safety? You're probably gonna execute a search warrant on that car.
Yes.
We want to make sure we give a tour.
They should have done that already.
Okay, and if not,
They're usually pretty good at that.
maybe we go there last, because you got your person in custody, and we put a little evidence scene tape around the car. Just to, again, we're gonna execute a search warrant, so. Any questions for the police?
I got a question of, the building, has it been passed by zoning? Have you got all the permits?
We have gotten permits. We went to the DRB at the town. We started the process just to make sure it could be built, because there are some restrictions on the land with its width.
That's why you're making it.
That's why we made it long and narrow.
Right.
Yep. We do have approval to build it.
We went in front of the DRB with an initial plan, and we did not get a variance that we sought. The building is now 30 feet, 8 inches longer than it was before. Meets the 30% conditional use. We have a site plan and conditional use.
Another question, how much has your firm made on this deal so far?
What's the question?
How much have you made on this process?
Well, all it is the pre-construction is what.
Yeah, I know, but you're not working for nothing.
Hang on.
I signed the contract, Bert, I can talk about that. So 2 components.
Yeah,
Green and
17.
Lampier Architectural,
Yeah.
REARC. So in the construction manager process, and this is why this is so valuable for consumers out there, their total cost all in, and they're losing money at this point, $17,000 total. That's what we're out of pocket. If this bond does not pass and we do not build, that's what they get,
And how much did that land cost?
$400,000.
And shouldn't the taxpayers know that you're spending $400,000 on land?
I'll defer to the trustees, it's ARPA funds, so it's
It
funds.
doesn't matter. You still spent the money without anybody knowing about it. We found out about it in freaking Messenger.
Yep.
After the fact. What the hell? Shouldn't we know what you're doing? Anything that involves real estate, we don't know about it. Why? Especially when you're spending $400,000, regardless if it's COVID money or our money. We should know what the hell you're spending it on. Shouldn't we?
What you gonna do with ours?
We have to ask?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm not positive of this, I'd have to check, but I'm sure it was discussed in open meeting.
No,
No.
no, no, you don't. No,
Did we not do that?
no, you don't.
Real estate is
Not
usually
a
under
word.
executive session.
I don't remember as
Not
much.
a word in the minutes about how much you spent on that land. Not one word.
Okay.
At the last meeting,
Sorry.
last night's meeting? What meeting are you talking about there?
Any meeting about the land.
Well, there's two issues with that land. The town owned that one time. I mean, the village owned it at one time and sold it and then bought it back again. Is that true?
I don't know.
Somebody in the village must know.
Well, the land that we purchased was, originally owned by Carroll Concrete. Before that was Anderson. Beyond that, I don't remember anything.
And all this smoke show screen you had up here, your video, it's a good video, it's a sales pitch, and I agree, you guys do need the room, but do we need to spend $20 million? Let's finish the projects we got on the books already. There's 3 projects that you guys have approved for and haven't started, 3 of them. And now you're asking for more money. A week later, after the wastewater bond passed, Mr. Sheets was on Channel 3 begging for more money. Who called Channel 3? Did they come here or did somebody call them?
No, they called us.
They called you.
Yeah, and it's hard to win the marketing battle, right? We got criticism Monday night's meeting for not advertising enough. Now we put together a package for education and communication, and we get criticized for that.
It's too much money right now. Let's finish the projects we got going. $8 million for the wastewater, the water under the line under the river. There's another almost 2 million. The bridge, which needs to be fixed.
Sure does.
And now we don't have money for that. They could have used the money they bought the land with and fixed the damn bridge. But no.
A lot of options.
Yeah, I understand, but.
And if we wait till the other projects are done, this one will cost twice as
Yeah,
much.
I get that.
Even
I
if we
think
cut it
everybody
down.
understands that it's gonna cost more if we don't do it now. Everybody knows that. Don't try to scare people that maybe your services aren't gonna get done. That's a scare tactic,
That's,
okay?
you're welcome
Look,
to
the
your.
garage has been like that for years, okay? They didn't need that huge Vector, for one thing. That's the problem, because
That's
it's
your
too damn
opinion,
big.
Darcy. That's
But-
your opinion.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know what you're telling us. Thank you for your opinion.
So it's important to point out that we must present worst-case scenario to you, like we did for the wastewater bonds. 8 million, we're gonna borrow 4.9.
I get it.
$17.12 a month, starting in 2026, 56 cents a day. We're gonna do due diligence where it's a slide presentation for later. We're gonna seek out every available option for reduced loans, grants, subsidies, whatever you call it. We're gonna get some of that, but we must present worst-case scenario.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If we build this facility, how long does it take before we're occupying that facility? How many years?
That's roughly just over a year.
A year?
For phase 1.
Shovel in the ground.
Shovel in the ground, person in that building.
September,
Yep.
12 or 13 months.
Yep, 13 months.
Okay.
Alan?
What happens if we fail on the bond?
Then we respect the will of the voters. That's the whole point here. We can't articulate that enough. We get the passion, we understand the fiscal concerns. You're all gonna tell us. You're gonna tell us where we stand, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, but what happens, like, let's say if we can't pay that bond?
You mean if it doesn't pass?
No, if it passes and we can't pay that bond, just say if the taxpayers just don't have the money to do it, and we fail, what happens after that? Do they put a lien on the properties of the people that can't pay the taxes? What is the deal on that? Because it's gonna happen,
If taxes go delinquent, yeah, then you deal with it.
and then they're gonna go through the process of losing their home.
Yes, sir.
I have another question for the chief. Back in my day, years ago, we outsourced our police to the sheriff's department, Franklin County Sheriff's. Do you do that?
No, we do not. No, Franklin County Sheriff's currently, due to staffing issues, they're having problems fulfilling their contracts with their communities. And those communities have actually reached out to us looking for services also, which we, quite frankly, I've told them we don't have the capacity to do that for them.
So you only outsource to the state police?
The state police, so we don't outsource to anybody.
Well, if you're not on duty.
No, we
you
still
go to
cover,
the
we
side.
cover the village 24/7. So essentially, right now, the way it's set up, our officers are actually present until 2 a.m. and then they're on call. They're covering 4 hours of on call essentially from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. And if something happens in the middle of the night, for example, a homicide in February of 2022, we get called out. We respond to that.
Would someone answer the phone?
No,
Here?
not here at
You
the
have to
police department.
dispatch
It goes
911.
through, correct. So the dispatch goes through Vermont State Police. Vermont State Police is getting out of the business of dispatching for communities. And so we're actually contracting with Central out of St. Albans, starting January 1st.
Does Central do just police, or do they do police and fire?
I believe they do fire also and possibly rescue.
They do both.
Police,
The
fire, and
con-
rescue.
The contract for us for next year, $65,000, because the state police did it for all these years for free. So that's a new additional cost for us. And for the fire department, the contract's $25,000 annually.
So that'll be combined.
It's two separate contracts, two separate services. Any other questions for the chief?
But it was, I mean, I can add to that just slightly in that I can tell you that there's this conversation about one Swanton, right? And so a lot of people don't realize, and something that I've struggled with since I've been here, is the difference between the town and the village. And so the people who live in the town don't realize that we are not their police department. So we only cover the town on a contract basis, similar to sheriffs. We covered them currently from 5 at night until 1 a.m., 1 in the morning. Outside those hours, Vermont State Police cover the town. And that is very difficult because I can't tell you how many community members come in all the time and they're looking for assistance. And I hate to tell people no, but realistically, we just don't have the capacity to take on all the additional incidents and investigations because, again, we don't have the manpower to do it.
Do you bill separately?
We do, so they pay
Yeah.
essentially a contract on a yearly basis is what the town pays.
The other question is, and I wanted to ask the fire department too, when you go out for an accident, a car accident, do you bill that insurance company for the
No.
accident, for your?
No, we do not bill the insurance company.
Even if it's out of Swanton, if you're doing an assist?
Generally, we don't do that, but we have occasionally for bad accidents. I mean, because we are in such a rural area, right, we will assist Vermont State Police if they don't have immediate backup. Border Patrol will assist us, Vermont State Police backs us up. I mean, some of this more complicated casework, if we're executing search warrants, we work with other law enforcement agencies, because quite frankly, to do it safely, you need those numbers to engage in that sort of activity.
So why wouldn't you bill?
Well, they don't bill us, we don't bill them, but essentially, as far as crashes go, we don't handle crashes outside of our area. We won't do that. It'll be Vermont State Police's responsibility.
Well, MVU rescue bills for anytime they pick up someone. So I didn't know why our police department or the fire department does not bill.
Well, I guess MVR is a private corporation. They are not part of the municipality.
Right.
Whereas we're a municipal service, so my understanding is we do not bill. You know, unfortunately, the police departments don't make money, right? We only cost money and it's very expensive for police services, mainly due to salaries and benefits is the largest expense. But we do not bill. Generally, I can tell you Burlington doesn't bill either for the police services that they get. It comes out of the taxes that the residents pay.
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a couple. So the way I'm understanding what you just said, Chief, the town is just a contracted service with you, correct?
That's correct.
So if the town voters said no to your budget, you don't go to the town? That's
correct.
Where are you gonna park your cruisers?
What do you mean?
Isn't that law? That's in the town, because I can remember when the concrete facilities were there, village police would not respond to a burglar alarm there, it had to be state.
You are
'Cause
correct.
that was town.
That
So my
was-
question is, where are you gonna park your car?
So that was the town. It is now, my understanding is there has been a deal for that to be
No,
a
it's
village property.
still in the town. We own it, it's in the town. We're gonna go through the process, this legislative section of doing an annexation.
But you understand my point. If they're not gonna go to the town still owns that, it's still in the town is what I'm saying, it's not in the village.
You're correct.
No, I see what you're saying.
So as a town, as another question, as a town voter, has any consideration been given to maybe how many dollars tax should go to the town for that building? Why doesn't the town?
That was Monday night. That was Monday night's meeting. The
So-
town select board was here.
Just a point of clarification, we're always gonna respond, whether it's the Vermont State Police, any agency, for any, like the chief said, for any life safety issue, those boundaries go out the window, right? Any time there is a true life safety issue, from a motor vehicle accident to a shooting, everybody wearing a uniform, including the US Border Patrol, are gonna respond. We're gonna continue to have a partnership, so maybe we're not being as articulate as we should in explaining it. We have a great relationship, trustees to select board, and we're trying to create a dialogue. And in Monday night, in fact, we said we're trying to forge a relationship where the vision is this. This is costly. We know we're asking a lot. The only way rates come down is to have multiple communities be all in. Share your grand list, whether it's Swanton, Highgate, and there's 2 or 3 more knocking on the door. Vermont is at an absolute crossroads, and we're not gonna solve it right now. This is gonna take 5 to 10 years. We do have the ability to be the model in the state of Vermont for regionalized policing. If you added 5 towns, you don't need 40 cops. You need to scale up marginally for each community, and every community that you add, the tax rate for everybody goes down. The problem is, it takes time, and it's hard to have that vision if you're the one paying the taxes up front. That's the difficulty.
And it's hard when the few times I've had to call for police at my property, I've always had to get state police because we couldn't get village.
So, and there's the confusion. So there's not many times where I'm not in my office and I hear somebody raise their voice at the front lobby complaining about our police department. Except when you go out there, it was a response at noon, or a lack of response almost always. My beloved state police, where I was 30 years in, 11 years as the number 2, my last 11 years, were never designed to do soup to nuts services for 212 communities that they serve. It's a choice. If it's do you want free, and they're gonna do life safety stuff, you're not gonna get the quality of life stuff. That's what's gotta be weighed up. Do you want free, or do you want services that are gonna be there and stand up? And that's the question.
And if I could add to this, and Lynn could probably give the exact number, but the cost to the town and the contract has been kept artificially low over the existence of that contract. So it's not a great deal. My understanding is on the tax bill, it's lumped together with the highway department, so it looks like a bigger number. But the actual cost for police services in the town for those 8 hours of coverage a day is not that great a tax burden on the town. But again, it's been kept artificially low. I don't think it's realistic as far as the cost of the service.
I understand, I see what you're saying, and just from my standpoint as a taxpayer paying that bill, the times I've needed this police department, I've had to rely on the state.
Right, and I don't like that, and that's why we pitched full service coverage for the town also, but again, it's expensive. That bill would go up substantially. It was $1,037, I wanna say, on a $250,000 home is what it would cost the town for full service coverage. And what is it, 90 some odd dollars?
$88
Currently?
and $250. But that concept essentially that's a conversation for 2025. Here's what we gotta know. Whether it's this option or an alternative option, we don't have the space to expand. That you'll see it live. The confusion comes in, and please call the chief if we don't respond. When we're covering, you heard the hours, right? So if it's during those hours and if you don't get the correct response from the chief, he's my direct report. Come see me anytime. I'm gonna assume that if there was no response, no follow-up, that didn't happen on our watch. If it did, we wanna know about it. Ed Daniels.
I just wanted to correct Dan on one issue. The town does not own that land.
No, it's in
The
the town.
town is the governing body of that land.
That's what it says. That's in the town.
And again, we'll try to do an annexation through the legislative process this legislative session.
Matt?
So we're gonna, if we have follow-up for the chief, it looks like he's doing business. Dwayne, from the electric department. Dwayne, can you introduce yourself and we can talk about the stressors on your part of the organization?
Yes, my name is Dwayne Kuchar. I'm the line foreman for the power company here. I've been here 26 and a half years. As far as what we have for spacing, obviously you guys will see that, ladies and gentlemen. There is our equipment, like I had said, it's all gotten larger. We have equipment that's out in the yard that we would love to have undercover. You can see that, obviously tonight it's a little harder to see that equipment that's out there. That we would like to have it inside. So just looking at what we've got and what we spend, how much our equipment is, it continues to go up like everything else in this community, in this world. That's what we're looking at. We need space. We don't have any space. You'll see our equipment's all tucked in, tight to each other in the bays. We can, and the other stuff that's outside in the yards.
So currently we enjoy, and this has been an open dialogue, we enjoy the third lowest electric rate in the state of Vermont, 11 cents a kilowatt hour. We have 3,800 customers primarily in the village, the town, and the town of Highgate. So, and of course we have our hydroelectric facility, and that's the blessing because that's what really produces for us. What we're trying to do, one of the options could be, because we hear it from the public, why don't you simply take the electric department and move them next door? It's a possibility. So we did look at that, and we actually had ReArch run some numbers, and if we moved to make space for what we're trying to do, if we moved electric and public works in a similar longer shape and then renovated here, 2.7 million additional dollars based on the square footage requirements. So again, we're trying to present what we think is the best package moving forward, albeit it comes with a vision, and it's a vision you might not share. If we could ever show you the roadmap where if we could just fast forward ahead and say, these 5 towns are all in with a grand list, and here's the tax rate, well, that'd be easy. We can't do that. You can just have the vision, try to execute it. There's no guarantee we're gonna execute that vision. Any questions about the electric department? Alan?
Yeah, is there any room at the town garage for any equipment?
For our equipment?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. I think they're pretty full in there.
They are?
With what they've got. I see a lot of their stuff under their lean-to and stuff up there. That's what I think. Anyways.
Okay.
Dan?
Yep, first off, as far as you go, Lane, just for years, thank you for always providing excellent service. You guys do an unbelievable job, no matter weather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The guys work hard.
They sure do.
Everybody.
And we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Next question, and I gotta bounce this off of both of you. The electric department is a money-generating entity, correct?
We're a municipality, so no, we are not. Do we make money? It's more, right, we can't have money, we're not supposed to have money in the bank, if that's what you're asking.
I understand, we
Right.
produce hydro, et cetera, you guys generate income, correct?
Correct.
Which in turn allows us to upgrade lines, put them roadside, build resiliency, and keep the cost since 2016 at 11 cents a kilowatt hour.
Let me rephrase that.
Yes.
The hydro plant is not an income producer. It is behind the meter. So basically it sheds our load. So it shaves off how much purchase power we have to buy out on the market. So we don't receive, the only time we do is if our generation and the contracts that we have in place exceed what our load is, and then we do get paid by other entities for our generation. But it's a load shedding entity at this point. We don't get revenue off it.
If we didn't have a hydro, your rates wouldn't be 11 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
For sure.
So do you sell power?
Do we have cow power?
No, do you sell power?
Cell power.
I heard that.
Yes.
Only when our generation is higher than our load, then we put power out onto the grid. But we don't, as a rule, it's usually just shaves off what our peaks are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Last call, electric. Dean Ryan, Public Works.
My name's Dean Ryan. I've been in municipality field for about 20 years. I've been here at Swanton Village for 12 years. I've been the supervisor foreman for 5 years roughly. I was a taxpayer in Swanton Village. I'm a taxpayer for Swanton Town. I work for the taxpayers for the village. I understand and listen to everything that you guys say. You did say something, Donnie, about insurance. If we have stop signs or signs that get broke, I try to find out who they are and we go after the insurance company. Crosswalk signs, same thing, try to find out who they are, go after the insurance company. So anytime that I could try to save some money for the taxpayers, I do. We try to work on our own equipment here. It's hard in the summertime. I have to take a lot of the equipment and move it out. We paint crosswalks, stop bars, we do all the painting in the village. We fix all the water lines ourselves, all the sewer lines. We do our own sewer structures, our own storm structures. I got probably about $265,000 worth of material and equipment sitting outside. If I have to wash a truck or something, I gotta move vehicles out. It's really tight, and if you guys go for a walk through there, you'll see. You know, we got tools and stuff scattered from one spot to the other spot, because I can't keep them in the same area. So a big thing is space. You know, we're always bumping, getting into stuff. And if we have a water break, I gotta go to the fire department because I got a 5-inch garden hose over on our side. The Vector holds 1,500 gallons of water and I got 7 yards of material that I can hold on board. So if we go to the fire department, we gotta open up the door, drag the hose out, unravel our hose, we have to fill it up. Might take us a total of maybe 15-20 minutes and we gotta get back inside, you know. It is a big unit, Darcy, for water breaks and stuff, but I'm gonna tell you, it don't take long to empty out 1,500 gallons and fill up 7 yards. And especially if you're working over on Middle Road, and Alan knows, it's almost 10 feet deep. And almost 11 hours to 14 single axle loads of material to haul in and out. So I hear everything you guys are saying, and biggest thing for us is safety and room.
So Dean, is there a bay that you assign the police department?
So I have a bay that we share with them, and a lot of times if they are seizing a car, whatever we have in there, they'll kick it outside. Or if it's one of our plow trucks that's loaded up, usually it'll go in the salt shed. And there's nothing worse if you got a snowstorm and you gotta start the truck up and let it warm up 20 minutes or so before you can take off and you can go salt the road, because they just don't have enough room in there.
So could you use that bay? If there's no one's in there?
If there wasn't a cruiser in there, yeah.
So the cruiser's in there?
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
yeah. It's basically you can fit 2 cars.
Yeah.
Well, I
In the
don't
space
think I
allocated
can.
to us,
There's
so-
a car in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's not a cruiser in there and if we gotta wash a vehicle, I can put a full-size truck, a pickup in there to wash it. But I can't do a dump truck. Usually we have to move a dump truck out or remove the Vector out so we can wash a truck, and we gotta just keep moving them around.
Yeah, I didn't know if you could use that bay
Yeah,
when they're not using it.
yeah, and we've gone in there.
Do you pay for that bay?
I'm sorry,
Is
what?
that part of your police budget, that bay?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah, there's no other alternative. I think we articulated that, but there's no ability to drive in with a prisoner, much less put a vehicle in to execute a search warrant. So it's filled right now. It's filled now with a car that's seized.
When I
We're gonna do a
drove in,
search
there
warrant.
was someone
Yeah.
loading the car
Yeah.
inside the bay.
And without going into any detail, blue BMW, there might be a long-term seizure that we just pulled out of there that's in the parking lot that I can't talk
We just
about, but
Didn't have space.
that we're trying to do a seizure on. So, and that lived in that space for a long time, because again, it's a seizure where we executed a search warrant, so.
Can I add one other thing?
Yeah.
Our substation, it's right here on Elm Street. We actually have seized stuff in the substation
That's true.
because
That's a
there's
good
no,
place for it, though.
because there's no other place for it.
It's a good place.
But, well, not if I need to roam in the substation, but, you know, just add, that's, you know, it gets used for other stuff other than what we need it for.
Any question for Dean in Public Works? Any additional?
One question. Yeah. Again, appreciate everything you do a great job.
Thank you, try.
Maybe you do know the answer, maybe you don't, just gonna bounce it off you. If you don't know, maybe the village trustees answer. From 1985 to 2023, how many more streets does the village have?
That was kind of hard for me to answer, because I've only been here 12 years, you know? And we have roughly, we pave, or we go through and we plow roughly about 13 and a half miles that we plow with the truck, and 13 and a half miles, well, probably pretty close to 14 miles with our trackless now. So, and when we go through and we pave, I only have a paving budget of $50,000. So if anyone ever had a driveway paved, $50,000 don't go very far. So we do our own side work, I don't contract it out, we do our own curbing, we do all that. We do our own structure, so I don't contract anything, I try to do everything I can do to squeeze every penny that I got.
No, I
You know?
agree, and we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
My question, though, is very simple. How many more streets or how many more miles of streets do we have in 2023 in the village of Swanton that we had in 1985?
I'd say Jones Court would be the only addition.
Evelyn Lane was added, Jones Court, not many,
Not
since
very many.
1985.
I'm just trying to see from the other side of the coin, the reason for all so much growth.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's, we're not a town, and we don't just mow lawns and plow highway. We got sewer and water, and we do all of those, the vast majority of those repairs, insertion valves, all of that stuff as well. It's a big difference. That's 1,500 customers. That's miles and miles of aging infrastructure from 2-inch lines all the way up to the bigger stuff. So I've been here just a year. I came in probably thinking the same thing. What are we gonna do in the winter? I'll tell you what they're gonna do. From day to day, they might be out on Middle Road. Alan's seen them many times. All of those spots, by the way, that I know we're gonna get hit, knock on wood, any day.
Careful.
Because it hit that 10-degree mark, and they're gonna start snapping. And then that's what they're doing while balancing out all the other stuff. It's much more complicated, and historically, perhaps we have not done a good enough job demonstrating what we do. We're trying to get better with that, educating the public as to what the demands are on a daily basis.
No, I understand that. That was just a simple question.
No, I'm glad.
How many miles of road you got
Yeah.
now than you had then?
Very few.
You lost the
additional.
Robin Hood plant, right? I mean, we don't have Georgette Bag anymore. That used to be around back then, but,
Well, we got, like, Diane said, we got Jones Court, which I don't think we had in 85. Is that old? Jones Court?
just saying, you haven't added 1,500 houses, have you?
No.
No, correct.
We wish.
Just where I'm coming from.
We have 1,500 water and sewer customers.
But again, that is pay as you go, correct?
We have user fees, we have to maintain the lines. We have, if it's a sewer leak, water leak, that's what we're doing. We're repairing those.
But you're generating income to do that.
Correct, that's right. Yes. Yep.
That was all.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do, bro.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's turn it over to Dan Chevalier.
Dan Chevalier, Assistant Fire Chief. I've been on the department for 18 years. What it comes down to is that the health and wellness of the members is in question. Monday night, it was mentioned that the town had purchased the garage. And I had the pleasure of being in that garage earlier this week to talk to the lineman foreman, and I happened to notice they had an exhaust system to clean the air. We don't have that. That never came with the building. And we're finding out that there's a lot of things that we're missing. that are affecting the health and wellness. For example, the trucks have outgrown their base, which are creating choke points and crush zones. Anybody who's ever taken a driving class understands the concept of crush zone, where you get in between something, judgment call was made, somebody gets pinched. Due to the size and the shape of the trucks, those are becoming more frequently. We are grossly inadequate as to the decontamination of ourselves before leaving the station and going home. At one time, it was deemed acceptable to ride in the back of the fire truck, and then finally they deemed it unsafe. They did the research and they found that wasn't okay, and they had to stop doing it because they found a way to protect us. NFPA has put out some rigorous recommendations as to how to protect ourselves. We're not doing any of them. So our cancer risk right now is at its all-time high for any department in the area. There are unsafe working conditions due to the lack of space for the members to even don and doff their gear. The guys are putting their gear on this close to the truck. Again, another bad judgment call, truck moves, we have another issue of somebody getting run over, somebody getting pinched. We need to get the gear, we need to separate the trucks from the men. We don't have the footprint to do that. I would have to steal from him or part of this room to get the guys away from the trucks, to make it safe, to make it effective. It only takes me and Avery bumping into each other one time for something to go completely south with a call. There's considerable exposure to the exhaust, which is actually a huge one because that's one that's been around a while. And when the trucks run, the exhaust again goes in the air and it lands on whatever it wants. Well, right now it's landing on our gear. It's landing on everything that we touch. It lands on everything that we use to resupply. Actually, if the doors were open, Bill Sheets, if the ladder truck was to start, Bill Sheets would be eating the exhaust off the ladder truck. That's kind of one that we need to consider. To spend the time to try to put patches on this building to meet our needs isn't effective, it isn't cost effective, and it really doesn't make sense. Because what is it? It's a garage. It's a concrete floor with 6 bay doors. That's a garage. Who's in the market for a garage right now? Dean, desperately. His department needs to have the space available. You move us, he gets his space. 95% of his issues are resolved. He expands. It makes sense to start from scratch and start with not with the 1978 design of the building that we are tied to it currently, but to start over and set us up. And with the design from the architects and RIARCH that they've come up with, this isn't an issue we're going to be talking about again 25 years. This is a fix for all known requirements and guidelines to have a safe occupied building. And the new building gives you guys options. We're at max capability. So in 15 years, if you were to say to me, you have a concern and you want us to evolve, I can't guarantee you that we could do that because we've maxed out the space with the size and the shape of trucks. And I couldn't add a piece of equipment. We wouldn't even want to consider taking it side by side because of the confines of the building itself. So that's kind of like, I would love to give you guys a tour. I would love to show you guys what we deal with. The difference between myself and the gentleman sitting next to us is that when we go out to do our job, it's a time-sensitive event. So we don't walk into the station, nonchalantly say, hey, ask you how your weekend was and put our gear on. We have an obligation per NFPA 1720 for response times. So we have to get in here quickly, safely, effectively, and efficiently, and then get back out again. And it's becoming harder and harder to do that. It's never really been changed. I've had the privilege of serving under the last 5 chiefs. Every chief has tried to make an adjustment to find a better way to do it. And it's like a Rubik's Cube. And we're not finding the combination that works. Allow us to move, and I think you guys would like what you would see for the end result.
How much would it cost to put an exhaust system in here?
I would have to refer back to the specs of, I don't know that number off the top of my head.
And why can't you move that old fire truck, the retired one, and put it where the ambulance bay is? Because they're gonna be moving out.
So all of our equipment that we house in the station is currently active and deployable.
That old antique fire truck?
You're talking about the Perch, sir?
It's not there.
The Perch is not there, yep. The Perch is currently in storage to try to remedy the space issue. And it was decay, so we didn't want it to get abused any more than it had to be.
And then what about that little garage in the back? Are you gonna have access to that?
I believe that if MBR was to leave, that would revert back to the village, so that's a bill question.
That is correct. There's currently fighting over that amongst everybody you see up here in terms of space needs. Yeah. And I hope that comment by Dan resonates. False narrative all over for the folks on the keyboard. Why are we moving out and what's going to be done with the fire department space? We're not abandoning this building. It's 48 years old, we're remodeling it. So it'll last another 50 years with consideration, because we really reduced the cost, and we're cognizant of that. Essentially, again, the false narrative out there, we're doing this because we need only a new fire department. That's not true. We're doing it, he's getting evicted, basically. He's getting evicted because there's space needs, and it truly is a great garage. It's not an adequate fire station to meet the needs of the future.
What do police departments in New York City do when they get bigger equipment? You know, they've got the same buildings they've had for 200 years. What do? How do they renovate? How do they make room?
I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to that question. My research did not extend into the other states.
Just kind of curious.
Yeah.
This is only 50 years old, and their buildings are a lot older than that, and they survive.
Right. I would have to research that and get back to you. I do know full-time departments have taken extensive work to, again, with exhaust systems, retrofitting those stations as best they can, and they also have a second set of gear. That second set of gear is extremely costly fix. And given our call volume right now,
I don't want to give the wrong impression. I'm not against you guys.
No.
It's just saying, it's a lot of money, and I understand that it may cost more if we wait. And I just think you could do other things that help improve this building. Why wait 50 years before you put a new heating system in? That's been needed for years. And haven't put a nickel in this place, other than maybe recently they painted this room. Just let it go. And I don't get it. You own a house, you have to fix it. Things break, you fix it. You don't let a 40, 50-year-old heating system, you put a piece on it every month or something like that. You just can't do that. Why wait? Yeah, you let the building fall apart. Yeah, we need a new one now. No shit.
I think it's been upgraded before that, but I've only been here for a year. But
Not much.
Again, the root cause of this request is the fact that we are out of space. And we're trying to move the pieces around as effectively as we can.
I understand.
How many spaces do we have for the rescue squad? How many bays?
One.
One bay?
Yes.
So why couldn't the fire department move over to the rescue squad bay? Because the rescue squad purchased the land over here.
So if you go back to, and it'll be depicted on the second, one of the easels back there will have it. We can only store all of the current public works equipment if we include the bay that Missisquoi Valley Rescue is currently in. That's factual. Those are real trucks with real measurements, with real equipment, and we can't put all of their equipment in the fire department. We can't move public works in its entirety unless we use where Missisquoi Valley Rescue currently is for additional equipment space.
I just meant the fire department, move the fire department over one bay over, include that extra bay.
How does that assist us in any way with solving our critical space issues for all of our organizations? Again, that's what we're trying to do.
My idea is that the village police department lease E.J. Barrett's building in the center of Swanton, across from the parts store where Bourne's Energy was. That would be an ideal spot for the police department.
Being centrally, it's still be centrally located.
They have enough bays there. If you lease the property, not purchased it, then you'd have a landlord, any problems, you'd have a landlord to contend with.
I understand where you're coming from. Grew up here. Been in that building since I was 4 years old. We bought all our cars there, and I worked for John Barrett. It is not even close to meeting any needs, space-wise, parking-wise, structurally, of anything. I'll say it publicly, because good friends with John. John was shocked when I asked to go down for a tour with a chief, and he looks and he's like, "You want to use this building for that? Go take a look at that." We would have to knock it down, and we're not gonna do that with a lease and have him incorporate cost. There's no parking. It is not even close. And in my past life, that's what I did in the Vermont State Police. I designed police facilities.
For the police department?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
It looks good to me. I mean, you have the front would be ideal. The back you could use for holding cells and house cruisers.
We looked at it. When I say that you can see through the walls in the back, only the front has been updated. It is not even close to being adequate for a police facility.
Okay. That was my idea.
I know. We've heard it from a lot of people. We appreciate it. It's just, it is not the ideal location or facility. Yes, sir.
Okay, this is for the fire department. When there's an event, how many trucks do you use? Do you use all your trucks, or is it usually one or two?
That's not an exact number because it varies on the type of call. A structure fire requires most apparatus, whereas a car accident requires only one or two. So it depends on what the call is and the nature of what we need to go to.
How many trucks do you have?
6 currently. 6 trucks and 2 water boats and a decon trailer.
Okay. So I know for a fact, 2 trucks go out for an average.
For an average?
Yeah, 2 trucks, 3 trucks and all. What do the other 3 trucks do? Do you keep a log on mileage, last time it ran, last time it was serviced?
So we have an extensive maintenance program to where pretty much every Monday morning you'll see a lieutenant and a firefighter here doing exactly that, checking the trucks. And the variety of calls we have that range, I believe it's 15 different categories. No one truck really sits for too long. I would be hard pressed to say that a truck will sit for more than approximately 3 weeks. And if that's the case, we'll take it out anyways. We do an extensive driver's training program in the summertime. So all trucks are essentially out once or twice a day for the drivers to earn their sign off for the piece of apparatus.
Okay. So how many trucks do you actually need?
All 6, sir.
All 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Got a couple questions, bounce around, but first one's to decontamination. Do you not have a way to wash your gear?
We do have a way to wash the gear. It's a recent addition that I believe we've only had within the last 5 years. We have a washer and dryer. It works very well, and we're very grateful to have that. The problem is that if you go back to the NFPA requirements and you go back to the training we received and the medical documents and all the research that's been done, that is no longer enough. You need to do a full body shower, wipe down decontamination of yourself. In the fire service, they teach us sayings: 2 in, 2 out. Make sure you have a buddy. Try before you pry. They also have a new one. It's called the golden shower. The 1 hour shower. And what that consists of is that you have an hour's time to completely decontaminate after a call.
Anybody look into how much it would cost to put a shower in your station that you have now?
I don't know as if we've done that just yet. I do know that the conversation is, where would you put it? And that's the problem.
You guys share the bathroom here, though.
Right, and again, you're gonna go back to the science and the NFPA requirements, is that when you're decontaminating and getting the chemicals off you, you shouldn't be in with the general public. I'm dirty, he's clean. You don't put us on the same place at the same time. So those really aren't a feasible option for us.
I don't understand why they never put a bathroom in the fire department in the first place when they built this.
I agree with you, sir, and if I can speak to another point of that, everybody understands recruiting and retention. and then we're volunteer, we have to get people to come in the door. You mentioned bathroom. We only have a men's bathroom that we share with them. So as I give people tours and we try to encourage all the genders and particularly ladies to come and join to help with the recruiting issues, they definitely have something to contribute. When you give the tour and you say, come join the team, this is a great place to serve, that's one of the first things they notice. It's not very inviting. But if you were able to move us to the new facility, we would be able to check all the boxes that need to be done.
You know, wasn't done yet.
Yep.
So, just another question on your NFPA stuff. NFPA 1911, just a couple questions there. You got a Q-Max pump out there, I'm guessing?
What again?
Q-Max pump, ale,
Yes,
single stage, two stage?
2-stage, I believe.
How many gallon?
2,000 gallons a minute.
All right, and, got on-spot chains on that truck?
Yes, sir.
When was the last time they were dropped?
Approximately 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and you do that often?
Typically right before the winter season and during the winter season if we notice an issue. Our maintenance department tries very hard to stay on top of things like that.
I believe standard maintenance on-spots are dropping once a month, correct?
I was not aware of that.
Yep, on your Q-Max, just for sake of question, what do you have for gearbox?
I would have to research that. I've never designed one of the trucks myself.
No, but you can't tell me if it has a G or K?
No.
What kind of matters when it goes to what you're putting in that gearbox if it's low on oil?
Correct.
I'm just looking at staying up to NFPA codes.
Oh, absolutely, sir. And again, I myself don't work on the trucks. Like I said, the maintenance department, I would have to refer to them to answer that question.
Yeah, okay. And in one of your videos, I saw a bunch of hanging wires. Did that not kick under NFPA 70E with you?
I would kind of refer that one to Bill. I mean.
Okay, you're on fire suppression, that's why I'm asking.
Correct. Building code and enforcement, that's nothing that's ever been under our direct jurisdictions. We usually refer that to the State Fire Marshal's office.
The Vermont Division of Public Safety and Fire Safety, correct?
Correct.
Just the last question I guess I got on this is, don't every one of you guys in your budgets rent off the village?
Yes.
Don't you have to pay rent?
Yes.
So as a landlord, how can you let it get that bad?
Question.
I mean, this didn't happen in the last month.
No.
How can you neglect a building
I agree with you.
and your employees to the point it's this bad? I mean, looking at your video, you're right up there with slumlords. Sorry, it is what it is.
We're trying to work with that. You're Darcy, you're right. They haven't put a lot into this place to try to keep costs down so the taxes don't go up. Well, we're kind of maxed out now.
The rent money went somewhere, is all I'm saying, and as landlords, I think you had an obligation to your crews for their safety of your employees, and as a landlord to upkeep this building. Somebody dropped the ball.
Ed?
If you would come up and sit in the afternoon with the lady who's the treasurer of the village, she can show you every penny when the taxes are paid or when the rent is paid. When they get their money, each department is responsible for a certain percentage of the building. And the tax of their rent is all set so that everybody pays their share. And it's all recorded as to what goes in there. So, and I'm sure if you would come up and meet with the lady, she'd be pleased to show you that.
There's no question that the rent was paid. There's no question on that. My question is, how come we didn't take the rent and maintain the building as the ownership of the building the way it should have been done?
I think it's been done pretty good. I was here when we started this. I think it's been done pretty good over the last 50 years.
Well, I'm just going by the the videos that were shown.
So this building is in good shape.
There's areas where it's lacking, but there's been a lot of maintenance done to the building over the years. I've been
I'm sure
here,
there has.
you know, you can't fix every little single thing when you're running a municipality, but they've put a lot of money into the building over the years.
Plus,
Try to maintain it as much as you can and keep,
in addition to that, the community has changed a lot since this building was put up. And the services are more demanding, there's more services that have to be done. And to try to keep the costs on everything down, we've done it to this point, but the demand for our services is increasing, so the cost is increasing. The space is not what we used to be able to deal with, so.
No, I understand, Neil, that was why I asked you how many more miles of road you had in 2023 than you had in 1985.
So, Donnie?
I was appalled by looking at that video on Facebook, how the village had neglected this building, neglected the ceiling tiles, the wires hanging, everything else. I was so pissed, I wanted to call BOSHA and report you in.
I agree, I'm right with you.
That is uncalled for. You shouldn't have wires hanging out. You have electricians here.
I mean, it's a.
Why was you showing that video to everyone? How neglectful you guys were.
We're showing the state of the building.
Well, I think you're also
Why should it
showing
be
where
that way?
you're violating 29,
You're
what's it,
violating-
1910, some part.
If there was an electrical fire, who would we
331
blame?
to 335?
Bill, it'd come to you.
Sure. Yeah.
Why isn't this fixed?
Just to clarify, we're not interior electricians. We're linemen. We can't do wiring in the buildings.
Commercial.
Yeah, we're not commercial. We're not commercial. We're not master
You're not master
electricians.
electricians, but you have the ability to hire someone. There's no reason to have.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we're not.
No, but you have the ability to hire someone
Yeah.
out of your budget here to fix that. That was very bad.
We'll address that. We're not gonna replace the ceiling tile for leaks that keep happening that we can't really identify where they're gonna be. It keeps leaking. It's 48 years old. We're presenting a case to you. Here's the deal. Very factually, once again, we're out of space. There's a critical need. We want to take care of those space restrictions by expanding and doing minor renovations that are going to take care of all of these things and giving us a platform to serve for 50 years.
The exposed wires and stuff like that,
We will immediately take a look at that.
and the storage, the way it was stored in there.
Storage where?
Well, on the video, it showed the storage. I don't know if you guys that up there.
Police storage.
It was on the video where it was in
Upstairs
the
where
room.
boxes-
There's no room.
That's
We
not
have
the
to keep,
evidence room.
Paperwork, we're required to keep things
Oh, I
for so many
agree, but
years.
the way it was stored, I mean, it's a safe,
Paperwork in where
it's a
wires
fire
are
hazard.
hanging is not.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's a fire hazard. And I think our fire marshal over here should take care of that. Fine you guys or whatever. I'm appalled by this whole situation.
Some of that 400,000
Could
could
be
have probably
used-
paid them OSHA fines.
Oh, I see.
So what it boils down to, we, like Bill says, we need space and we needed a direction. That's why we hired the professionals instead of going with random suggestions. This is what it's gonna take to fix what we've got, or some alternative if the voters don't go along with it. But we're presenting you our case, like Bill says. This is what we've got, and this is what will fix it. What do you want us to do? That's why we're having all these forums, so you don't hear it on the media, on social media. We're trying to present this as transparently as we can, and we didn't cover up the wiring, Donnie, because it's probably been fixed by this time, but I don't know, but it's,
Well,
and,
most places fix it up before they show the video.
Yeah.
You know, when you find out inspectors are coming, you have a crew that goes around and fixes that stuff, so it doesn't look as bad. But that looks like it's a safety hazard.
So, that's why we have these gentlemen here. We want to know what the right way to do it for the safety of our crews and the betterment of our community. And this is what we have come up with, and this is what we're presenting, and we're gonna show you what we've got, and you can see what we would like, and the conversation goes on. And the voter, hopefully, what we're all hoping is the vote will come out in March. Everybody will get out instead of just, I mean, I'm glad the 125 people or 124 people came out for the bond vote for the water system or the sewer system, but it really frustrates the board and me because we put all this stuff out. We have informational meetings and 2 or 3 people show up. Like tonight, this is like we're presenting a $20 million project, and we've got what, a couple dozen of you here?
13.
And we're just hoping that we can get the word out enough so we'll get a good voter turnout in March. And then we'll know where to go from there.
The only 2 people that attended from voters that attended 5 open houses and an informational meeting are seated right here. You were the only 2 that showed up for all those. It's kind of surprising.
So you could slam us with what ifs. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But we've tried to contact or get involved with the community, and they don't want to come out until something's done, and then they criticize. So, but historically, that's what happens, but it is pretty frustrating.
So we got to move on to the.
Can I just ask one question, Neil?
Yes.
Is it possible that you could sell the Riviera property to offset this?
Yep.
Yes. Is that being looked at?
But the state is holding that up too.
Well, can you sell it with the brownfields, the way it is?
I doubt it.
We hope to be able to sell that property in the next calendar year. So they did an additional 11 borings for soil and 3 groundwater monitoring pits in the last week. Those will now be analyzed. We'll get a corrective action. We'll do whatever mitigation needs to be required, and then they'll determine what we can use the land for. So it's either gonna be 0.6 acres, clean bill, sell it, do what you want, or restricted. Where there's soils and groundwater, it's gotta be restricted, it's gotta be capped. No basement, in other words, foundation only.
Can you cap it with just cement?
We don't know. The state of Vermont has to determine based on the brownfields mitigation. They'll tell us what we have to do to take care of it. We don't know what that is yet.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's another frustrating deal, dealing with the state regulations.
So we gotta do a walkthrough, the all-important walkthrough of the financial impact. So you're not gonna be able to read it on the screen, even though we can pull it up on the slide. But we're gonna turn it over to Lynn, and she's gonna walk you through, with her expertise, what the impacts are gonna be.
So I'm Lynn Paradis. I'm the Assistant Village Manager and Controller. I've been here for 19 years. The administrative offices up front, when this building was built, we probably had maybe 2 ladies working up there. We currently have 4 people plus the meter reader. Then there's my office and Bill's office. And then when Heidi joined us, she has the corner office over here behind the petition. So we're out of space. Up front, where the customer service is, when you guys come in and pay your bills, you've got Diane and another lady standing there that takes the phone calls and customers' money and stuff. And then behind them sits our billing clerk. And then down from her is the meter reader's desk. And then in the corner is our accounts payable / payroll / human resources person. Several issues. If a customer comes in and needs to discuss their account, we have no place that they can privately discuss it with somebody. And customers may wanna, come in and, okay, my bill's really high, how come? And they run through the scenarios, do you have this in your house or that? Or they come in because they can't pay their bill, or they need to figure out how they can do a repayment plan. Right now, as they're discussing it with somebody, another customer can come in and hear all of that. We used to have what was the trustees boardroom that we could take them to, but we've lost that space because we moved the police department. That's an officer's room now where all the patrol officers have their computers and their desks. And we can't really bring them in here because it's still not private because you've got a person working in the corner. The second problem we have is HR. Somebody comes in and they've been hurt on the job, so they've got a workman's comp claim. Right now, they're over in the corner, no privacy, right? The other people in the office can overhear, customers coming in can. They want to, ask questions about their benefits or their paycheck. There's no place they can really privately. I mean, if my office is empty or Bill's, they can go in there. But that that's when we're not tied up with something going on. There again, they can't really easily come in here because you still have somebody working in the corner. So this renovation would add a private office for HR, payroll, and then an office for Heidi, so that we each have space. And there's space in the front office now where they can actually, it's tight between the desks. There's basically a width. If somebody's walking and you roll your chair back a little bit, you may bump into them. It's just not a very big space, and we've grown. Number of customers have grown to a certain extent, but so have all the requirements. There's solar net metering now, like billing has gotten a lot more involved, and it's not gonna get any easier with the technology that's out there that we have to encompass. So they're at their max, and the space is extremely tight for them. Does anybody have questions on that part before I jump into the numbers?
I just had a question, I don't know if that relates to, but Swanton Village only has 1,500 customers.
No. So we have
Village.
about 30,
Voters.
for electric
Voters.
department, we serve 3,800 electric customers in Swanton Village, part of Swanton Town, part of Highgate, and into St. Albans.
No, I'm talking just Swanton Village.
That's voters.
Checklist is 1,500.
1,500.
59.
So how come we outgrown everything we haven't really outgrown 1,500?
We have 4,000 electric customers.
And water, we have
And 1,500
water and sewer customers. So we put through that office process is about, it's over between 12 and 13 million. I'm working on the 24 budget right now, so I don't have it exact. But last year was just under $13 million in a year's time. And that is total budgets. That's electric, water, sewer, highway, general fund, police, fire. There's a lot of money that goes through there, a lot of bills. We didn't have, the electric department has grown since I've been here. We've added, there's developments out in Highgate. They've grown a lot out in, off Lampkin Street. So we've added all those customers. 3,800 customers, and we're growing. And so with that, it's time constraints. These guys do not sit idle at their desks. They are busy. And with that comes, extra employees, and, payroll is a full day plus right now in a week. Accounts payable, she also does that. Accounts payable is a good solid day, if not a little more, depending. And then you add in all the other stuff, grants and all that stuff that we do. Like the front office is the billing person. She does not have any slack time. She is busy.
So Don, basically, the village has the business, we have the infrastructure, but we service more than just the village people.
I understand that, but we've grown so much. We've got a lot of equipment now. The fire department has 8 trucks. The police department has 7 cruisers. We only got 1,500 voters.
But we
That's not a whole lot of people.
But that's not 1,500 people who live here, that's only 1,500 registered voters.
Registered.
That, you know, a lot of.
Well, the other people don't care.
But so you can't.
They're not
be stuck-
voting.
But Donnie, you can't be stuck on that number 1,500 thinking we're only serving 1,500 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the fire
I
department
mean,
serves the
population
town
is
and village.
6,700.
But that's billed separately though.
So the town, the way the fire department is done is their budget, and it was agreement way before I was here. We figure up what the fire department's budget is each year, and then I take the town grand list and the village grand list, and it's a rolling 5-year average. So I go back and look at what the average is or what the grand list was for the last 5 years and average it. So for 2024, the town is about 77% on average for the last 5 years, and the village is 23%. And that's how the budget is split. So whether you live in the town or village, you're paying the same for fire protection on your tax bill. It's the same rate. Yes, the town writes a bigger check out of that, but whether you live in the town or the village, if you look at your tax bill, the tax rate is the same.
Is there a more efficient way of doing that?
For the fire department, there isn't. I mean, that's the most fair way, and I know one of the chiefs, the person that was chief when I first got here, and I don't know if they still do it now, but he tracked the calls between town and village, and so we would compare, and it's pretty accurate that the call volume is about the same. But I think it's the most fair because then no matter where you live, you're paying the same. You know, and I don't know if they ever did the actual grand list, but I know the average was done to kind of smooth any spikes. So if there was a lot of development one year in the town, their costs didn't jump, you know, versus the village. So it kind of keeps, and it's been, you know, that 75, 76, now 77 just this year. It's been that way, you know, for a lot of years. It doesn't really move because the growth the averages out. So I think it's fair. It's not hard for me with the budget to calculate because it's just the expenses less the budgeted income, which is like interest income and, you know, some of that is really small. And then you just apply the percentage. So it's really the easiest way that I know of. That's the fairest.
Thank you.
Let's get into the numbers. So for ease of use for you in the audience, we do have this figure for those that are on at home. It'll be on your screen.
So the first one is the fire department page. So the first line that's on there is the 2023 property taxes. So that is the actual amount and tax rate that we billed in 2023 and what the cost was in your property value, whether you had a $250,000 property or a $400,000 property. The next line down is the estimated 2024 property taxes. And I'll caution you, like, I'm still working on the budgets. I'm still getting small pieces of information in. So this has not been approved or adopted or anything by the trustees. This is just how the budget looks at this point in time. It is still subject to them or Bill taking stuff out.
It's a good approximation based on what we have right now.
So the estimated number for the village, and the town's tax rate's gonna be the same, is $88,715, which is a 0.0533 tax rate. So you can see, if you compare 2023 to 2024, and you look down at the bottom where it says estimated increase in 2024, if you have a $250,000 home, your property taxes in the fire department are gonna go up $1.25. So then if you go down to the next section where it says operating budget, this is what I've estimated the 2025 budget. So you've got the first top is the operating, which would go from 88,000 this year to 93,000 next year. And that, for lack of a better way to do it, I just put an escalator in there. So just for operations only, to compare what we're currently doing to what 25 would look like, it would go up to 0.056, which would be that portion of your tax bill for 250,000 is $139. Then down below that is the bond cost. So the bond payment, which I split based on square footage, the fire department piece and the police department piece. So the fire department's share of the bond would be $741,000, of which the town's portion is $571, based on the current 77%, 23%, which gives me the village portion. That would be 10 cents for a tax rate, or on a $250,000 home, $256. For an estimated 25 property tax bill of $396, which that would be $263 more than what you would pay for 2024.
Fire department, questions related to the bond and the impact? If not, we'll flip to the other side.
So this side is the police department, and I did the same formula, or format. The first line is the 2023 property taxes. This is what a village resident paid in 2023 for their property taxes on a 250,000 home. The estimated 2024 property taxes is $1 million plus. What adds into that, because that is a substantial jump from the current year that we're finishing up. Right now, we know St. Albans City is gonna be taking over our dispatching. We're being forced, like Bill said earlier, that's a $65,000 introductory fee contract. It's subject to increase. On top of that, in the budget currently, the board has not told me whether or not to take it out yet, is a full-time administrative person to be able to relieve some of the workload on the department, and another officer, so that we're not relying on part-timers to fill shifts or paying overtime, which is what's happening most of the time, to cover shifts. Alan?
Quick question.
Yep.
What caused that change to happen?
Which change?
Dispatching
The
costs?
dispatching?
The Vermont State Police have been trying to get out of dispatching for free for
years.
25 years.
They told us in 2022 that they were not gonna dispatch anymore. Then when it came right down to it, they were like, okay, we'll do it for one more year. So we knew going into 2023 that this was our last year with VSP, and that we had to find another source. It's not feasible, nor do we have the space to dispatch on our own. We would have to provide 24/7 dispatching. That's what, 4 people, 5 to dispatch and be able to have coverage, plus salaries, plus benefits. It's, 65,000 is a deal.
It is.
If, we don't have the infrastructure to have, multiple people, because you gotta have coverage all the time if you're dispatching for yourself.
Very few public safety answering points in the state. The state of Vermont has gone down to 2. And at one point, they were dispatching for fire, police, and EMS for over 500 entities, free of charge. And the model was not sustainable.
And they're struggling. Those dispatch centers are struggling.
They are.
With staffing issues.
So we currently contract with St. Albans City Dispatch for fire. So this is on top of what we pay them already. Separate contract. This contract starts January 1, where our fire contract starts July 1 each year. So it's a different price point, everything. The other thing that we have is we have the contract for the town of Swanton. We have a contract with MVU for the SRO. And the other source of fair amount of income is we do fingerprinting. So your nurses that are redoing their nursing license, school teachers that have to redo their licenses, they have to come in and they have to go get fingerprinted. There's only selected places, and we're what, 1 or 2 in Franklin County maybe that do it?
3, I believe the sheriff's office also does it.
Okay.
But St. Albans, us, the sheriffs.
That brings us in $16,000 to $20,000 a year. So it more than pays for the machine that we've got and, the administrative person that takes care of that. So for this year, what's projected, if you have a $250,000 home, your tax bill for just police services will be just over $1,500 for the year. If we go down to the following year, which is for 2025, I'm budgeting an estimated 1.6 million. Of that, I backed out other income. So the 2 lines up above, I've already netted that out because that's what we have to raise in property taxes. This middle section, I'm showing it, so the 1,057,000 is comparable to the 852 and the 1,000,007. So that brings you to a 0.6355 tax rate, or $1,588 on a $250,000 home. Then we jump down to the bond costs. So their share of the bond cost in 2025 would be $457,000 and change. Of that, 150 of it would go as part of the town contract. And we, in conversation right now, for every 2 shifts that we cover, the town has a shift. So there's technically like 3 shifts. So they would take a pro rata share of that cost, which would bring us an estimated property tax of 1.3 million for 2025. So the increase from 23 to 24 is $232, and an increase from 24 to 25 is $535. But this does not also take into consideration, as they've kind of alluded to, we have got, I know of 3 towns that are looking for us for contracted police services. That isn't factored in here because those serious conversations haven't happened. If we're able to get into the other facility, those conversations would happen.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Yeah. Out of everybody in the village, is there any people that don't have to pay taxes?
So there
Like,
are
just
the
say-
churches are exempt.
The churches are exempt, the school is exempt.
Section
Victor
8.
Health Center is, well, non-property owners don't pay.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? You said section 8.
Section 8,
If somebody rents a home, I mean, it's probably factored into the rent, yes, they're paying taxes to their landlord.
But the landlord pays taxes.
Yeah, but the renter does not.
Okay.
So your churches, your schools, any non-exempt property, but it's your property owner.
And then you get, there are people that qualify for veterans exemptions if they're more than 50% disabled, but that's only up to a cap of 40,000 on their grand list. Our grand list comes from the town. So the town does the lister's office does all of the legwork on the grand list, and they just send us over
your list of all your
village portion.
Tax.
So what somebody's appraised for on their town side, if they're a village resident, is the same that they get appraised for here. Because we don't take care of any of the land records. That's the town's job. Joel?
Lynn, on your operating budget, I'm assuming you've taken into account the cost of the heating and all that of the new facility. Someone has estimated that for you?
Well, I haven't factored that in, but what is included still is what they pay here. So it's
Kind of like the rent they pay back to the village per
Yeah,
square foot, something like, so somehow you've accounted for it some, and I'm assuming with the geothermal and stuff, we're actually probably gonna heat it cheaper than what you're doing here.
Yeah.
But you do have a figure in there based on your current kind of square footage?
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
still in there as like rent.
I'm good, that's all, I was just curious. I figured you probably had, one last question.
So there's one, we're changing the formula for the way that we do contracts. So the town has had a rather favorable deal in partnership. And they literally make up 1/3 of the shifts for the police department. So we are going to change the way that we construct our contract to reflect that. They're gonna pay for 1/3 of all costs. Pretty reasonable. 1/3 of dispatching, 65,000, 1/3 goes to that entity. 1/3 of the chief's time, he goes to their meetings as much as he goes to our meetings. Here's the way, long-term, 2025 and beyond, and it's the only way that we can reduce that impact. The magic one down there that says 535 is to have these contracts with other organizations. Say Highgate, or a bordering partner agency. Say they did a similar contract, not even full-time, 70 hours, just like the town of Swanton. Any additional officer that we would have to bring on to fulfill that, which we would have to, paid 100% by that entity, 3-year contract to ensure some continuity. In addition, 1/3 of dispatching is on them. 1/3 of the bond is on them. 65,000, 104, I won't try to do that math. It scares her. So that's the way you start to get multiple communities on, that's when you see the village impact be reduced. Again, no guarantees, none. In fact, we could present the new rate to the town in March, and granted, it's not the rate that it could have been if they were all in. It's very reasonable. Theoretically, the voters could say no. And if they say no, then we gotta make the adjustment. We'll immediately go to the neighboring communities that are begging for service. Everybody's being impacted by the crime. It's not imagined, it's real. The number of search warrants, if you're in the 50s after being in single digits for years, drug case tonight, search warrant tonight. It's continuing, and it's continuing to build. There's many other communities that they want on board. Yes, sir.
Now, why aren't we going after Purdue for all the damage? Because all this crime is over pills, right?
Well, there is a nationwide opioid settlement.
Which
We have gotten a small amount of money that we have put back in, and we're looking for partners. Very scriptive use of that money, and we're talking about $6,000?
Right now, we have probably about 10.
Okay.
And it's over several years, we're gonna get more, but we're very restricted. We can't dump it into a building.
It's gotta be, it's geared toward
Training,
prevention.
Prevention,
training.
Youth prevention and prevention programs.
What I'm getting at is this crime is caused by this medicine from Purdue.
It's a class action suit that's been
Right.
settled.
Why aren't we going after Purdue?
We did.
We did. We were part of the state of
This is
Vermont.
our
State of
payment.
Vermont's got
Yeah,
us
but that's not done yet. We went after them for citizens. We need to go after them for what the people are doing and what it's costing the village for extra costs, what it's costing the town for extra costs.
we pay millions in legal fees. Like lawyers aren't cheap and they're not gonna take this on on good
But that's
faith.
what needs to happen.
But that's what the state
would
would
do.
do.
The state would do
It's a
that
national problem.
on our behalf.
You're probably
The
gonna
state
see,
should do it.
Because we get,
They do
we
it.
already get a payment.
the Attorney
from the
General's
first
office
class
represents
action.
the state of Vermont for that, and they have successfully in past lawsuits.
So where's that money?
That's the opioid
That's the
settlement. money.
that's the
I mean,
$10,000.
we're sharing it with almost every other community in the state, plus the state itself gets a good chunk of it to dump back into programs for prevention.
And she said it's very limited on what you can use those funds for.
Right, again, we need to go back to the state and say, where is money for the police because of their actions after they use this medicine?
I assume, just listening to that was part of the settlement discussion.
I don't know about that.
Well, I suspect it because the state isn't stupid.
Well, if they're only allowed to use it for certain things, it's not, it wasn't calculated.
So that's the requirements they put on it.
Someone needs to look into that. That could save us a lot of money.
Would save everybody a lot of money perhaps if you could get that done.
Any questions in
Based on what
reference?
I know, the settlement is done.
That portion of the settlement is done.
It is.
Yeah,
And the
lawsuit's
courts-
been, national lawsuit's been
And it
settled.
was done in the highest court.
Well, I just heard there's judges that kicked it back, so.
There could be another one, there could be a
Things could
different
change.
company.
Things can change.
Yes,
Okay, it's tax. If you live in the village, you pay the village tax and the town tax.
But you don't, when you pay the town tax, you're paying for library, their portion of the Lynn records. You're not paying any highway, and you're not paying any fire or police because you're paying that on your village side.
correct.
That's a misnomer that's always been out there. We bill our highway, our fire, our police.
So basically, we're paying 100%.
No, I mean, because out of that, we bill the town, so you're paying net of what we bill the town.
Everybody pays the same for fire.
But if the town does not pass this.
Yep.
The village gonna have to pay. That's the stinger.
The
That's
town's.
true. That's true.
He
That
said
is
the town
very
is.
true, and the village doesn't know that.
It's the town, both towns.
So you're talking about the bond?
Yes.
So the town does not, they don't have the ability to go and vote for the bond that we're talking about here for the public safety facility. Only the village voters can vote on this. Only legally, only one governance structure can vote.
Well, then the town part needs to be removed from the village then. Because
It is.
It is.
So you'll go in, if you're in the town, you'll go in and the
I
articles
live
will be
on
there.
both sides, so. I'm screwed either way, but. I'm saying if this bond, if the town does not say, okay, Mark.
They're not bringing it to the voters. They chose not to on Monday night.
Well, not the bond. If you're in the town, you're gonna walk in.
They're not gonna bring it to the voters.
Okay.
This is just impacting the
think-
village is what we're presenting tonight. This is.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The bigger police coverage vote would happen in 2025. There's a year to discuss that. What's gonna be presented in the discussion with the select board right now in the town is that new contracted rate for policing services. Going to 10 hours to mirror our schedule, paying for a third of the organization. There's some equity there, it's fair, and it's reasonable. That's what'll be in front of you in 2024 when you walk into the voting booth in the town. Joel, did you have something?
The only thing I was gonna say is I went to the select board meeting the other night, plus I came here Monday. That, yeah, the town has made no decision on either of the proposals. So they're even still looking at the folk piece too. So right now, they're
Yeah,
just.
they haven't made an official
Right,
decision.
there's
They're
been no
not
vote,
bringing it
there
to
was a lot of
voters.
discussion Monday and so on, but yeah, there's been no.
So it's not over.
But
Yeah, so I just wanna make that clear that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
that's fair.
Okay, we're all on the same page. I didn't miss a meeting.
But only the village voters can vote the bond article.
Right.
Yeah.
That we're discussing
And
tonight.
this, right,
Yeah,
it's
the-
just
the
how it would
town-
impact a village.
Yeah.
So-
Damon, you've been very patient.
Quick question, on par with like someone like St. Albans and their costs, how do we compare with what we have for services to what they have for services and costs?
So policing, they just voted last night, both entities, city and town, 2.4 million town, 2.4 million city, 4.8 million police budget starting in July.
Yes.
Shared policing coverage. If you do the math on it, we're higher again when we live on our own, not substantially, and we level out and are gonna be even better big if, I can't repeat it enough, big if we partner with neighboring communities.
Are we ballpark? I mean,
I'm told I don't have those figures precisely.
If it were
We
close
are-
to cost, but we are higher.
We are ballpark.
Yeah.
If we were combined our budget, remember the concept, if we joined and went full all in with the town in 2024, let's call it 2025 now, double the size of the organization, include the bond, everybody would have been at the $250,000 rate. Just with those two entities in, the taxes for the village would have gone down for law enforcement from 1,281 to 1,036 or 1,037. Without that all in, our costs are going to increase and escalate, hopefully only briefly. Hopefully, this 2025 number will not even look close to this. If we get the facility and we get the partnership and we get the buy-in, we have a vision, we'll do our best to execute it, there's just no guarantees that we can. Yes?
I just wanted to say, because I see a lot of these,
Yeah.
I know at least one town seems to be pretty interested in what's going on here, so it's not exactly a pipe dream to say that like people are gonna be pursuing those partnerships. And I just feel like that's some good context I could offer. Is I've seen at least, I've spoken with one select board who thought it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, thank you for the input. It's, we're in a crisis mode for law enforcement coverage and capacity in the state. And it's those police departments that have leadership like we do that are gonna be aligned and suited for recruiting. There's not a lot of folks right now that wanna join the police profession. The Vermont State Police, even with a great banner class that graduated last week, have 51 vacancies. That's the trend. We're one of the only fully staffed, albeit very minimally staffed, police departments in the state of Vermont right now. We're only as good as our leadership and the crew that we have, and right now we have an outstanding crew. Something we can build on. We have one more slide if you'll bear with me, and this I'm gonna hit very quickly. We're giving you worst case scenario. We're pursuing all of these avenues for grant funding, and they're numerous. Are we gonna get them all? Heck no. Are we not gonna get any? I don't believe so. We're gonna get something that's gonna reduce our fiscal impact to all of you. There's no crystal ball. There's no rhyme or reason. We'll do due diligence. We'll do all we can to reduce the impact by getting all of these. We're gonna try. There's no guarantees. They don't give you the money up front for this stuff. Any other questions for the panel before we break off and do tours? Okay, so the camera's gonna follow us on the tours. Do you still have somebody in custody, Chief?
I'm not sure. My guess is yes.
Let's start with the fire department. So we're gonna go fire department first.
All right, so originally the fire station was part of the original design of the 1978 building. As you can see, the trucks have gotten substantially larger and the space has come more confined. If you follow me around, you'll see that the space we're in right now is currently the only space that we have that's available for us to meet, get together, and talk to each other. We have one chief's office, which is what's behind you right now. This is our command center, this is our chief's office, and this is our administration portion of the building itself. The kitchen that we previously just went through attaches us to the auditorium. This building is approximately, this section is approximately a 15 by 10 room that we use, the auxiliary uses it for the ability to take care of us. What you have here is a set of stairs in the hose tower, which is where we dry hang and free hang our hose, which allows us the ability to essentially clean and dry our hose without the use of electronics. Behind me here is we have Marine 2. This is one of the 2 boats that the department owns. This serves us very well to be able to keep it inside with the rest of the apparatus because at any given time of the year, this boat is in service. I've gone out to the New York Rouse's Bridge in February to help look for a jumper because we were the only boats in service because everybody else puts theirs in cold storage at maybe an off-site location. So that's why we keep this inside. Our utility truck, which primarily consists of our traffic truck, brush truck, and pulls the boat and the trailer.
Yes, one of the gentlemen who got very concerned about budgetary.
It's recently been modified to make the boxes smaller and to make it a little more use and whatnot. Again, the ladder. This ladder is a little bit longer than the previous ladder when it was replaced. Again, the size and shapes of trucks are changing, and they change to meet the needs of the community. So what we do is that we figure out what works, and we integrate that into our design. If you look down this row right here, you'll see the gear. So when you come in, sir, if you remember, when you were to go down this gear rack and put your gear on, and the driver of the truck fills his truck and he makes it a judgment call to move and drive away, you are in essentially a pinch zone. You are in a crushing area. So if you fall, you trip, the tires are right there. It's not safe, and it shouldn't be allowed. In per NFPA, we really need to think about changing that. You come again over here by engine 2, which is our rescue truck. This truck allows us to take care of fires and vehicle accidents. Again, when you look at the relation of the gear to the truck, if the truck moves, his truck's backing in, and you're here trying to put your stuff into its alcove, you are at a pinch point. You are at a dangerous point in this whole area to where it's not safe for you. Every chief has done a variation as to where they've moved the gear racks up against the wall. They've moved them in between the trucks. They've moved them on the other side and then the other wall. And there's no place to get away from the trucks. And that's what we need to do. We need to provide the gear a separate room, off from the apparatus, off from the exhaust, in order to ensure that the membership is being taken care of. They're our greatest resource, and we want to get them away from the truck. The exhaust on engine 2, you'll notice, comes out right here, and if you notice, all the ones on the trucks come off this side. So firefighter Potter, firefighter Walker, and Bruce Whalen, every time we start this, their gear is exposed. At one time they were, but we found that we still weren't able to get away from the trucks. We still weren't able to get away from the exhaust. The footprint doesn't exist here for me to put this in a place that common sense and NFPA would deem to be safe and appropriate.
Right now, I would say no, because they belong over there where they is.
Right, and even up against the wall, there's the exposure to the carcinogens and whatnot. Due to the size and the shape of the trucks, you get to what we have our choke positions and or pinch zones. The space here that as we're walking through is one of those. This is the only way across from one side of the bay to the other, because the space in between the front of the trucks is substantially even smaller than the one we just went in. So again, trucks are coming back in, the jobs are done. I have 25 members here, and one person decides to walk through here, and he thinks his air brake's set, and it's not. I now have a crush zone. And even with having spotters, even with having all the necessary procedures, due to the fact that human error is human error, we still run the risk with the design of this. That's why NFPA and all the modern recommendations are drive-through bays. You come in, you watch where you're going, you look left, you look right, you go into your parking spot, and you stop. 90% of most accidents happen with a piece of apparatus backing up, unless it's involved the general public.
So the other building would give you how much more?
The square footage for the bays is actually almost comparable to what we have now. It's kind of right now we're in a square form, cut the building in half, spin this side around, and that's the approximate length of the new building. And again, it's just, you drive in and you park, you have the ability to see everybody, you have the ability to be away from everybody.
Is somebody going to park behind you?
No, there will be nobody behind us. It'll just be another overhead door, and we'll have approximately 6 feet in between the front door and the back door, so we have complete access to the truck to walk around it and not have pinch points like this. So again, this is another area of to where this is actually, the firemen like it on this side because you have room. You can walk by another person, you can get to your assigned seat, you can do what you need to do.
What is this one, a tanker?
So this truck right here, engine 3, is an engine tanker. So what it does is it has firefighting capabilities and a first due piece of apparatus. And it also has the ability to shuttle water. It's got 3,000 gallons of water in it. We can dump off both sides and the back of the truck. So no matter where the pond is or wherever the drop point is, we could pretty much hit this with this truck and move substantially a large amount of water. More fire goes out fast.
Now this truck goes out every time.
No, so again, it comes down to the type of call and the need of the call. Grass fires require substantially less water. So you'll see the brush truck go, you'll see the smaller tanker go, and if you deem it worthy, you'll see one of the engines go. But that's it, you won't see the other 3 go. They're actually left in reserve. The frequency in which we're having 2 calls at the same time has increased by 35% in the last 10 years, and it's still going up. So all the apparatus that's left behind for the first call is left in reserve for the second call if there is one. And we don't take like an engine with extrication tools to a grass fire. We try to make sure that there's a level of custom which truck to which call for the best outcome, because you can't put all the tools on one truck. So we've spread it around to make it effective for all the trucks.
By the way, how many calls do you get in a year?
So we approximately average, and I actually just did this study in the last 3 years, we approximately average 250 to 300 calls a year for the last 3 to 5 years. When the building was built in 1978, they were averaging 68 calls a year. So we're up 330% from where we started when the building was first designed. That's more car accidents, more structure fires, more CO, more all of the combinations of the calls that we have.
I'm looking at the building and it looks good. I've seen a whole lot worse. Because I've been in the trucking business all my life. This is nice compared to what I have to deal with, or had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the concern to try to move was to make sure that we could provide a safe, quality, hazard-free working environment for the membership. For the bays themselves, like you said, the building itself isn't in horrible condition, but because it's in that condition, it'll fit perfectly for Dean and his needs. If you look at the size and shape of my trucks, they're bigger than his plow trucks. So if he was to be allowed to move over here, his space would be substantially larger than what you see here with the fire trucks in this position. And there's enough life left in our portion of the building to meet his needs and what he needs to do with little to no upgrades.
Okay. So this is our admin section of the building. So that's our IT room. And then you go down, there's my office. Bill's office was back there. And this is our customer service / accounts payable / payroll HR section. As you can see, it's tight with a lot of desks in here and no privacy for customers or for employees that have questions regarding human resources or payroll.
So this, you can feel free to come on in. So this is the old department, right? This is our holding area behind us, which will go in there also. But it was right here. This was it. So this is where Officer Gilbert essentially has his desk, and where our part-time, our 6-hour-a-week admin person comes and does the daytime dispatching off this console. My understanding, it was before my time, is the officer's workstation was right here, and this is where they worked, and then it was just that room, and then the chief's office here. Now I'll show you this also. So this is, and you can look and see, and this is, it's funny that the women who work on the other side of the office, whenever they come in here, they're shocked by the temperature, because we get wild temperature variations. In the winter, it's oftentimes very cold in this office space due to the HVAC system. But you can see, and when I was here, I literally thought when I first came here that animals were running around in the ceiling. I think it's just drafty in the wintertime when we get gusts of wind. It'll snap and make sounds above the suspended ceiling. Yeah, but what I'd like to show you also is, because this was in the video, this is some of our equipment here, just sitting here. We literally have no equipment. These are gun cases. And this is our entire storage area and temp evidence. So if you want to come right around and take a look at this, this is literally all of the storage that the police department has. We do have, just be careful you don't step on the evidence in there. And then one of my job responsibilities is evidence custodian, and I am maxed out right now upstairs. I have very little room, maybe a little bit of floor space, but this is something I have to tackle. I spent about 3 months over the summertime trying to discard evidence that we had in long term to create more space. But with all the good work the officers have been doing, with all these search warrants they've been executing, we collect so much evidence so quickly that it's a huge problem for us, and it's almost completely disorganized, right? For the most part, we want to have much more organization. Again, we would like to have firearms stored separately. As far as the evidence room upstairs, we want to have guns and drugs separated. It should have double keys so that 2 people have to go up there at any given time if you're dealing with guns and drugs, so there's a witness all the time. And it should be under surveillance with camera. So if there's any issues, anybody can go back and check the camera system and hold whoever's responsible for the issue accountable.
You could extend this. Could you extend these out farther and then just go deeper with them? You know, extend your racks, get the door.
Yeah, possibly a little bit.
Basically, so that way there you can kind of sort.
But it is such a tight space. I don't know who else, was there one other person that wanted to take a look at this? While I have it open?
No, I don't see it.
No? And it's also, I mean, it's not normal that basically all the equipment would be stored off of the chief's office. Right. The officers should just have, I mean, they do anyway, they're coming in and out of here all the time, but generally speaking, it would be isolated and secure. Damon, if you want to take a look, this is our temp evidence and pretty much all of our storage for the police department. All of it. Yes. Well, you can see, so take a look so you can see what it looks like.
You gotta be kidding me. Okay.
Now we have a larger evidence room, right, for long-term storage upstairs. And what I was telling them before is this was prior to the officers' room existing. That was the workspace for the officers. Okay. Even if we were able to expand the contract with the town, it would be okay because we have an adequate number of workstations. Where if we had 3 or 4 officers working at a time, the bigger issue though is again. The computer system I feel is inadequate. It's not server based and it's not backed up. So generally you would want something automated where all of that criminal justice information is preserved and then automatically backed up on another server. So in case one went down, you would still have access to it. Right. So this is the officer's room, and the other issue is with some of these more complex investigations, you really have to. It's a story that's evolving over time. So you really have to figure out who's involved in these drug conspiracies, and there are usually multiple people from out of state. For example, we were working crews from Springfield, Massachusetts, from the Bronx, from Brooklyn areas of New York, and we don't have wall space. So I mean, some of it's covered up right now. But officers will kind of create a web so that they can kind of keep track of who's involved.
I think I saw something too where you're trying to get a full-time detective at some point.
It would be great because we certainly have enough work where they could take on, for the burglaries, the fraud cases, that sort of thing. It's very labor intensive and a detective would be very helpful.
You're not going to get it over in 12 hours.
No, and that's the issue is basically our officers right now are uniformed detectives. So they're handling the regular calls for service and then are also required to do a lot of follow-up to follow through on some of these more complicated cases. So it's not just that initial response and then nothing.
Yeah, I remember when they
but yeah, so this is essentially the workspace that the officers have, and they didn't have this until recently, until COVID, is my understanding.
Really?
So obviously this is my office here. I'll speak to Dean, his is the next one right now, and then we have our lunchroom there. There's a locker room and then into our restroom. You can see where we have to park our trucks in here. We don't have a lot of room in there, as we've said 100 times. We're in the middle of inventory right now, trying to get that done. So we try to keep, that's the cheapest way to get it, to actually buy by the pallet, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Swanton has their own water system.
We do.
That you could just drink out of the faucet.
We do. We have that here as well, But that's a little hard when you're out on the truck.
Yeah.
So we do bring it with us a lot.
I'll let you go before me.
This is basically as far as we go. And then there's the public works starts right there. I can flick on some lights up here, so we'll give you a little tour of our.
So you're part of the electrical?
I am. I'm the electric foreman. Yes.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
How high is a telephone pole?
That varies. So our shortest one would be a 35. Wow. Any of the old ones, they could be 30 footers that are out there, the shortest. And they go all the way up to
60 feet.
Well, with us, we have 65 footers in our system. Yes, that's the tallest that we have in Swan's system. But I mean, in some of them, we've got 90-foot poles.
Well, I live in the village, so I just wonder how high.
The majority, like going down First Street here, they're 50-foot poles.
50 foot?
Yeah. So, but as soon as you leave, get by the interstate, there's some 65s there. There's some 65s in certain places. 60. So we range from 30, any new stuff we put in is 35 all the way up to 65. Yep.
And we actually,
I just wondered the
Yeah. The average and the majority are probably 40 and 45 footers. Sorry, I don't have a light on in here.
That's all right, you don't need it.
Flick that on real quick.
There's only a couple of us.
Like I said, we're in the middle of inventory, so the guys have some stuff strewn around here a little bit. I apologize for that part. But we do have a lot of inventory that we have to carry in order to keep the system flowing. And our transformers, in case you guys aren't aware, transformers are not readily available like they were before 2019, before COVID. They're like a year out. For me, just to get a pole mount residential transformer that goes to service, say, your one house. So
here's a question.
So that's why you may see more stock, when you can get it, than you might normally carry. But we still have to carry quite a few because one storm, can wipe out, 15, 20 transformers is possible. So, and we are getting more of those storms,
Are your transformers
show you the mezzanine where everything is stored, where you saw all those files and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, at least get this. This is nice.
So, yeah, so we still, this is where we store our rubber goods, is up here. Our meters are up here that we keep. And all the stuff that's around the corner. Inside this room is the radio room, which controls all of our radio system. I'll flick on the light. As far as the location for a lot of this, these boxes that are here, let me get to the light here.
Lights, yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, the girls have to keep like 7 years, I think, of receipts and stuff. So that's what a lot of these boxes are. We don't have room on the shelves for them. And Matt's evidence room, the
Yeah,
police
you can see that.
I was gonna
door
say,
at
you
the
should
end.
have an
The
evidence.
door at the end is the long-term evidence, but essentially what it is you can see where the wall is bumped out. I'll walk down there. Just gotta be careful because of the ivy here, but, it goes to here and over there, and it's a narrow space. It's about the same width as this, just wrapped that direction. And it is filled with evidence. Filled. And it was pretty disorganized, and then I was able to get a little more organization to it, and I was hoping to, again, spend about 3 months cleaning it out, but it is unbelievable how quickly we accumulate evidence. We just don't have the capacity to store it.
So with that new facility, do you feel that the evidence room they would give you for that, do you feel would be adequate?
Yes, it should. So it's designed, it's a high-density storage unit. It would be newer and more modern.
Yeah.
It would track, like right now, I'm essentially the only one who has access up here.
And you're
But it would
physically-
track digitally. You have to key into it, so it would know who was going in and out of the facility.
Yeah.
Again, you could store guns and drugs securely, and there would be that digital footprint as to who was accessing what.
Yeah.
So it would be a modern facility that is meets standards for police work.
When you look around and you see these wires that are here, those are not electrical wires.
Yeah, I know
those are
that.
Ethernets and
Right,
phone
yeah.
and stuff. So I think a lot of what you saw also in that picture was Ethernet and phone.
So if you look, Donnie.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What was your name, Dave?
Damon.
Damien?
Close enough.
Big D.
So anyways, we draw a line, so that way there, these guys don't go over. You wanna open up that door if you don't mind, Matt?
Which one? This one?
The middle one? Yeah. So if you see, if we're working on doing some water parts, or if we're working on something, they don't give you a lot of room to move. So you're always opening and shutting that door, okay? Then if you walk over here on this side, whenever we park this backhoe, we always line the bucket up right here. And actually you can see a lot of times we scruff the wall so we can try to get some space over here. So we're always, right now, it's hitting the wall. So that way there you can open up the door because they're probably working on a valve that we're gonna do next week over on Middle Road. So in this bay, we have our skid steer. We have one of our plow trucks here. We got marks on the wall and stuff. We have to leave the back empty so we can get to some of our water tools, our shovels and stuff, and our oils over there. So if we gotta if this has to come out, there's not enough room, we have to pull the vehicle out so we can go through. And we also have a compressor in the back, so there's actually no more room in there. And actually, I think what the guys ended up doing is weaseling it a little bit so we have some room to come through here and walk. So this part is the cops. What's that?
I was gonna say, try not to get the registration on the
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So that is the vehicle we see, so, and you can see that this is our base spaces essentially. This is your right here. Yeah, so on the other side of this, you can see where the island jets out there.
Yeah.
Bright orange. We will sometimes have cruisers in here, occasionally if we don't have vehicles seized. We've had up to 3 vehicles seized recently, so we've had to move vehicles out. Dean, Dean mentioned how we moved a piece, well, the guys that night moved a piece of his equipment out, which is not ideal for him, right? And he didn't even know about it. And it can cause an issue, because I think it was might have been this truck and a load of salt in it, and then if we got some inclement weather, could have lost a whole load of salt because it was exposed to the elements. Right.
And this time of year, if we gotta go out, we got 2 trucks that we salt with. And I don't bring everybody out to salt, so 2 of us split up and we do the village. And if we come in and the truck's sitting outside, and you got a cold truck, you gotta let it warm up, because everything on it's hydraulic. And if your salt freezes, which it can, or if you get water on it, you gotta dump your load and it's wasted, and salt's not cheap, you know?
It's a good thing you don't have electric vehicles.
Well, we did. And so what we had to do is we had to jackhammer some of this. And when you got 2 cruisers in here, we had to shove over a little bit because you couldn't open up the door, and sometimes they would fold the mirrors in. So it's cramped, and then the same thing, if they had a cruiser here, you had to move a vehicle out in order to get the other cruiser out. Right now, it looks like there's space, but this is usually occupied, and there's usually 2 vehicles in here. The other vehicle's sitting out in the parking lot.
They used to have those, I don't know what they're like plastic, I'll say divider type thing.
Yeah, I can't put one there because we use the space when there's another vehicle.
That you can slide it.
Are you gonna back in here with the vehicle and move the divider? Then back in with the vehicle? Where are you gonna put the divider? You can't. So we paint it orange, and we usually stick a cone on it so we don't run into it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way.
With the cruiser, they're looking at that little island and they're trying to put the tire pretty much right near where that orange paint is. Just so there's room in between the cruisers also.
Yeah.
And this is the only space you have to process a car?
Correct.
That's it.
Yep.
Yep.
So sometimes, again, depending on the vehicle, sometimes we'll seize the vehicle, it'll end up down at the state police barracks, but it's outside.
And
So because they have a secure fence there, at least you can store it outside. And with the new facility, there would be a fenced area where if we had all the vehicles, we could actually store one outside.
And if you take a look-
Depending on what the nature of the issue was, why we'd seize the vehicle.
And-
Ideally, especially if it's search it, we want it inside.
And if you take a look at the doors, there's tapes on them. So there's times that they'll actually tape this whole area off and we can't come in. You gotta go around.
Well, just because, we need to control
That's right.
basically the chain of custody and the
Yep.
evidence. So it's difficult to explain if just people are randomly traversing the area.
Yeah.
And affects your court cases too.
So what I try to do, we got lines that I mark. So my steps stop there. I have to have my plow exactly, actually my plow usually comes ahead, I have to be in a certain spot. Same thing with over here when Gary, I don't have a sander on this truck right now. If I had a sander on that truck, you would just barely, the sander's in back of this one. We haven't had a lot of snow, so I didn't take it and put it on, but when the sander's on this truck, you're gonna come out here and you're gonna almost hit your knees every single time. And when you're walking through here, you gotta be careful. If you take a look at my wing, it's right up against my, my mirror. And my truck's dirty. So what I gotta do is I have to pull one of these vehicles out and shove the truck over so I can wash it. So that's what we, you know, we got these vehicles in here, and when you're here, when you're going through, you gotta follow these lines, and when you're backing in here, what you see for my lights, that's pretty much just about it. And when you transition in the daylight or in the daytime or at nighttime and you back in, it takes a while for your eyes to focus and you got nothing to look. So again, I try to put an orange mark on the table leg, so when you're backing this thing up, you can see it. We have blocks so you can stop. And sometimes if the block gets moved, you smash all your lights in the back, and that's a couple $100 to go through and fix. And usually they don't have them in stock, you have to order them, you know? And when you go on a call, you know, either you try to tuck it in or you try to go underneath. You take it in the back, you take it in the head. When you come through here, this is as far as this can go. This switch right here, this is it's an emergency switch. You might think there's one wire to this. This switch if this truck is running and we're doing a job and there's an accident, you hit that switch, it kills everything. There's probably about 20 wires that run to this switch. $500 for that switch. We came through here once, it got caught in the jacket because we were in a rush, broke the switch. If someone's down in the hole and if we're working on it and I don't have a switch, that's a big lawsuit. $500 for that switch.
You used to have covers that you put on these switches. You could just lift it up.
Right, but this type of switch doesn't come with a cover. This is a normal switch that you can go and buy. This truck was specially made.
Right.
So I had to go to C.N. Woods, this is where we bought it. They had to go through and they had to order the switch. It's not a regular switch that you can buy. And I understand, like these toggle switches, you can get those flip-top covers to go through.
Yeah.
But when you're coming this way,
Too bad you don't.
you know. Same thing over here on this side.
Too bad that wall had to be so high.
Well, yeah. So this is our trackless, and we try to shove it over as far as we can, so that way there you can go through and you can walk. And we got some equipment up there for the trackless, the rest of it's in the lean-to. So like I said, 1,500 gallons of water this holds. Here's what we fill it with. 45 minutes to an hour it takes to fill this. I'm on a water break or I'm on a sewer plug. I don't have 45 minutes to an hour to wait. So I gotta run over to the fire station, open up the door, roll out the hose, roll out this hose, put it together, turn it on. So it takes you about 15 minutes roughly to go through and to fill up. And you're probably saying, Donnie, I can read your mind. How come you don't run another line? The line's underneath, and I have to go all the way to the corner of the fire station because that's where the main water line goes. You can come up here. Electric meter car. That ramp stops to try to bring a vehicle up in and out. You take a look at our pickups. All of our pickups are side swiped because we come through to try to drive a pickup through that door. You got to fold the mirrors in. It's hard. It's really hard. When you go through and you bring in up those the mowers, they bottom out. The zero turn's no big deal. When you got the equipment, the attachments on, people say bring it up here. They hit. You know, those attachments. That machine itself's $85,000. All those attachments aren't cheap. You know. I try to do all my own welding. There's no ventilation up here. We do have a unit that we got. We just haven't had time to go through and put it up. I try to do all the welding. I try to do all the fabricating. I usually do all the brake work. I try to change all the air cans. I try to paint the vehicles. I can't do it in here because everybody complains. So I have to wait and go out into the sand salt shed. You can't paint. You can't get stuff out there this time of year. You don't have the lighting. You don't have the ventilation. You don't have the heat. So I try to get as much out of a vehicle as I can. I try to do as much stuff in-house. And I was born on the construction business. I took a lot of this stuff in school, and I try to do what I can do to save money, you know? So we got some compressors. We got our pumps over here, some battery operated tools that we got. Our cabinets, as you can see, our signs. Over there we got concrete stuff, we got paint stuff. We got sign stuff on the wall, some more sign stuff on the wall, some pipes, some water pipes, and...
What's that quad for?
What's that?
What's that quad for?
That's the electrics. They use it because they have...
Check the lines way down, like Highgate Spring?
Yeah, so there's times when you get a lot of snow and they can't get to them.
Yeah.
They got the tract, so they'll run the power lines.
Like the one there in Highgate there, whatever.
Yeah.
Track there, whatever. That
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Different, they use it for different spots. And there, to be honest with you, there's times that the fire department has a rescue and they have to get out in the wild blue yonder. So they'll come and they'll trailer it and they'll put it on.
Most telecoms do the same thing too. If they have to go out offset somewhere, there's unimproved road.
Yeah.
There's been times that we've had water leaks out in the woods and we'll throw our parts and our tools on it and we'll head out.
Yeah,
you know?
here.
Yep. So this is all the inventory that we have for leaks. We try to take them and put them on the shelf. I don't have a lot of room. Your tanks have to be a certain distance away from stuff. We got lockers down on the end. I don't have enough locker space. We put nails on the side to put our stuff. The rest of the stuff goes in our trucks. If you open up every single one of these trucks, we got gloves in there, we got jackets in there, I got boots in the office. I just don't have a lot of space for them,
right.
You know? And when you're out there and you got a water break, it don't take long to get wet. So we come back and it's nice to have clothes and stuff here, you know?
Yeah, you gotta have to change your clothes then.
And I don't have every fitting out there, but if we come to a job, more than likely I got it here. If I don't have it here,